What is going on, everybody? Happy afternoon, happy evening if you're out there on the East Coast. I'm Eric Lindquist. Excited to be talking through this 7-game MLB slate. Hit the like button, subscribe button, and notification bell as we get started. Goes a long way for us here over at Stokastic. Of course, Odd Shopper, presenting sponsor here. I would go check them out for all of your sports betting needs. But for all your DFS needs, I've got just the guy. He's not great at head-to-heads, I heard, but otherwise he's a really nice individual. Adam Scherer at Chip My Money DFS on the Twitters. How you doing, my very melancholy, sad dude?
Yeah, been a little bit better, but getting over it. Just kind of drowned myself in alcohol over the weekend to get it
I've
off
never
my
known you to be one of those people who would do such a thing.
mind. Yeah, I mean, really haven't been drinking much recently, but that changed this weekend. But yeah, just getting over it. It sucked. It wasn't a good time.
For those who don't know, Adam Scherer, 40K head-to-head that he had going from the to get a Tournament of Champions ticket. It rolled over from the MMA Live Final. Just needed two favorites. I thought you were a favorite to win going into the evening, by the way.
Oh, yeah, everybody did.
Yeah. I mean, it just made no sense that what happened. It was some painful stuff, but regardless, I still feel really good about the tournament. I'd still feel good about the 110K. Can we look on the bright side?
75K.
Oh, so because the equity was part of it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Should I just stop talking now?
It would be appreciated.
Okay, so let's get to baseball and hit the like button. I repeat, hit the like button. Just like I liked your lineup more. I'll say that one more time. Let's go Toronto, minus 135 at Baltimore, 9.5. Yusei Kukuchi, Jordan Lyles. We talked a little bit about Kukuchi on the old Twitters, but that's about it because, I just feel bad now. Just talk to me about Kukuchi.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the second highest strikeout percentage on the slate, which is kind of crazy at 25.5%, but that's really all that he's done well this year. 13% walk percentage is horrible. 4.36 xFIP is mediocre. 1.8 home runs per 9 is horrible. The Orioles do have a weird lineup today. They got Austin Hayes back, which is good for them. They're batting Ryan McKenna leadoff for I have absolutely no idea what possible reason. So you do get basically a free strikeout at the top of the order for Kukuchi, but after that, certainly gets difficult with Rutschman, Santander, Mountcastle, Urias. Mullins is hitting 8th, even though Kikuchi's not good against left-handed hitters either. So it's still, I think, mediocre spot for him. It is a nice park to pitch in, especially for somebody like Kukuchi that struggles with power. You have the left field wall just playing so deep now that it's really difficult to hit home runs there for right-handed hitters. So in tournaments, I think Kukuchi is okay, just because the strikeout upside is there. But I do think that there's better cheap options to get to.
Yeah, Ryan McKenna, 2K, leadoff. He's so bad at hitting. This is just like one of the weirder things I've seen in a long time. And I had to go as far as to amend my Prize Picks video. I put like a big alert at the top of the page because I had talked about, hey, I don't really want to see Ryan McKenna in there. Well, he's leading off, which makes it exponentially worse. And I don't know if the last two starts are indicative of what they're going to do with Kukuchi going forward. 67 and 74 pitches. But the main thing was he only went through the order twice, then got pulled in both of those. You do have John Schneider there as the interim manager going forward for this Blue Jays team. Do you think it's just a game plan they have for him to come out? Because then it wouldn't matter if McKenna was hitting 8th or 1st because you would just be facing him twice.
Yeah, that's a good point. He wasn't pitching particularly poorly in those games either. No. Gave up 2 earned runs against Tampa Bay, gave up 1 earned run in 5 innings against Detroit, and was taken out at 67 pitches. So I do think it's a reasonable point that he's probably just going 4 or 5 innings here.
Yeah, for me, that's the hard part of trying to evaluate what it is. And for me, if he faces McKenna 3 times, I'll feel like an idiot because then. Well, I'll feel better, if he faces McKenna 3 times, because I like the under of 5 over on Prize Picks today for strikeouts. But then when McKenna's going to be leading off, it just made it impossible to like that, because even if he goes 4 innings, only faces a minimum number of hitters. If he doesn't even get through the lineup twice, maybe you're looking at McKenna at least being the one guy who gets there twice. But just talking through the different scenarios, just something to be paying attention to. I don't know what the range of outcomes really is for. I think the ceiling's just a little capped for me. on this slate. He's not really that popular, though. Do you see yourself getting above 6% of him?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the thing is I agree with you. The ceiling's probably a little bit capped, but at the same time, when you look at the cheap pitching here, you have Keegan Thompson pulling the most ownership, which we'll talk about him. I think he makes sense. He looks like a good option. But then you have Kukuchi and Hannibal Sanchez both not getting as much ownership. So I think in given lineups, I don't mind getting to Kukuchi just because the strikeout upside is there, and even if he just goes 4 or 5 innings, he can still do well enough at 6,800. So I don't think I get a lot of him, but wouldn't be surprised if I got a little more than 6%.
All right. Well, we only have 14 pitchers and technically 13 because Tyler Beede is not playable in any way, shape, or form. That kind of just leads me into asking about Jordan Lyles. A share or two of Jordan Lyles for you today?
Maybe a little bit, but just because I'm playing 150 lineups and there's 14 total pitchers.
And then you have every combination. And then
right,
you're
exactly,
done.
yeah. But no, I mean, it's a really tough spot for Lyles, and he's not a good strikeout pitcher anyway. The one thing that, does work in his favor, it's basically the opposite of Kukuchi. Like, his job on the Orioles is to just go out there, throw 100 and something pitches, and hopefully not give up more than like 3 or 4 runs. And so that he's going to have a long leash and he's likely to go deep into this game, but he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, and the matchup against Toronto is just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, let's talk Toronto because they're popular. It's humid. You talked about the ballpark factors out to left field. You move that fence back, 20 feet? That'll do it for you. Trey Mancini confirmed. Power other places. That's playing pretty well for Houston so far in the early going of that trade. But 14.8% top stack percentage. They're a little bit of negatively leveraged going that direction, but it is blowing out. It's 88 degrees. It's another smarmy day there in Baltimore for you. Is that good enough for you to be landing on some Blue Jays?
Yeah, I think so. And when you look at the top stack tool, also, you mentioned them being a little bit negatively leveraged, but they're getting a lot less ownership than the Mets, and they do have similar top stack odds. So the way things look right now, I think I would actually get to them before I got to the Mets, even though I do like the Mets spot better. The ownership going to the Mets compared to Toronto is just pretty substantial. So, it's not a great park for right-handed power. Lyles this year, 156 expected ISO to righties, 211 to lefties. So not surprisingly, he struggled with left-handed power a little bit more. The Blue Jays don't really have any of that, though. Tapia and Biggio are the only 2 left-handed bats even in this lineup. So it's a pretty good spot for Toronto. And like you said, solid hitting weather as well.
All right.
Just from a pricing standpoint, Bo Bichette is only $4,500 on DraftKings.
Yeah, it's dropping. 4,300 Whit Merrifield leading off too. That's lovely, but 16% ownership going his direction. Second base, I know it's going to be basically him or Ketel Marte that you're basically looking at as kind of your 2 guys for like a cash purpose. I can't imagine. Maybe you just punt like Jonah Bride. I don't know why you would do such things. I think Whit Merrifield pretty easy to fit in there.
Yeah, I think so as well. Urias is a good value also.
Right. All right. Well, let's talk this other side of it here too. Somebody said Mateo. I say Mateo. That was a tomato joke for those keeping track at home. Ryan McKenna's 2K. That's the nicest thing I can say about him. Adley Rutschman is a catcher and one of the best prospects in baseball. You're the staple of your franchise, if you will. Talk to me about the Baltimore lineup because I'm sure you have interest going against Kukuchi like I do.
Yeah, definitely. They're not getting much ownership either. Only 6% aggregate ownership on DraftKings. Again, McKenna just makes the lineup weird. On one hand, you have the 2K guy leading off. I would think there's also pretty substantial pinch hit risk for him, especially if this game, if the O's are playing from behind or it's competitive. If they're ahead and they go to a right-handed pitcher, maybe they leave him in for defense. But I think there's probably a pretty good chance that he turns into Brett Phillips at some point. But ignoring him, Adley Rutschman, Santander, Mountcastle, Urias, Hayes, that 2 through 6 is really solid. Jorge Mateo gives you stolen base upside with some power. Cedric Mullins hitting 8th at 4,900. I can't imagine he's going to get much ownership since he's hitting 8th, but still, is a good hitter that is just hitting 8th for whatever reason. So I think in particular, 2 through 6 looks good. Really like the salaries on Mountcastle, Urias, and Hayes as well.
Without looking, what did you think Brett Phillips' expected batting averages this season?
140.
157. I did undersell it, but I mean, how bad do you have to be to have that as your expected batting average?
Yeah, he is not a particularly good hitter. Really fast and really good defensively.
And like a good overall human being.
Yeah.
That's all. But fuck being a good human being, be good at baseball, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. That's what I figured. I knew you'd be on board with that take. Let's continue on to the Reds and the Mets. This is a very, very important one. Oh, you had nothing else from Blue Jays Orioles, did you?
No.
Okay, cool. Reds, Mets, very important talking point. It has nothing to do with Justin Dunn, has everything to do with everybody wearing a Mets uniform, including the pitcher, Chris Bassett. He looks really good. This Reds lineup looks really bad. I don't know. Feels like kind of a no-brainer spot to me. How do you feel about Bassett at his current ownership?
I think he looks really good. He's projected basically to be the second highest owned pitcher on the slate along with Zach Gallen, but it's a reasonable price tag at 9,300. He's got a 24.5% strikeout percentage this year, third highest on the slate, 3.5 xFIP, facing a Reds team that just really doesn't have many good hitters, and there are plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. So I think Bassett looks great.
I mean, I think it's kind of like the easiest analysis period, right? Like it's just 9,300. I mean, he's expensive, but there's really no 10K pitcher. It's not so cost prohibitive to get to Chris Bassett and Blake Snell today that you couldn't just play a ton of both, right?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get to those guys. And then also, if you do need to save some money, you can always go Bassett and Gallen as well.
I just wish
Or
they would
Thompson.
put me in charge of slates like this, like DK, FanDuel, like make them 10-5, 10-5, Blake Snell, 10K. Make people at least do something where they have to think about it because, I mean, we know that they're going to come in probably higher owned than what we're looking at even on the page right now, right? You think that's about where they come in?
Yeah, I think it's probably around there. Just because there's a few of them that are underpriced. It's not like you just have Snell or just have Bassett. I think they're going to cut into each other's ownership enough. And then you also do have, guys like Keegan Thompson for value that are going to take some ownership.
I suppose 6,700 that can help you get to some of these bats. Like, I don't know, the expensive Mets that we want to be getting to. I have nothing from the Reds to talk about.
No, neither do I. Bassett's just a really good pitcher. I guess from a pricing standpoint, Mike Moustakas is hitting third at 2,300. Nick Senzel's 2,200, but I don't really think you need the value today. I mean, the whole bottom of the order is 2K flat, but it's kind of like, what are you using the savings for? I have a really hard time wanting to get to the Reds.
Yeah, I like getting to my 3 points total out of the three guys that are 2K flat in the outfield. That'll be good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, 129 expected ISO to righties for Bassett this year, 135 to lefties. It's not even like he's one of the good pitchers that you can still point to one hole and target it. He's just been solid across the board.
Yes, he has. And this Mets lineup, pretty solid across the board too. You get Lindor, they're pretty expensive at 5,900, but he's pulling a ton of ownership because this Justin Dunn character, really, really bad. Over a 6 xFIP in 3 years with Seattle. That's not great to look at as a whole. A 6.75 ERA and 7 starts at AAA this year doesn't seem ideal. Don't have all the numbers we need to from there, but I can guarantee you probably not going to go well for Justin Dunn here in this spot against the Mets. How do you kind of value them being so popular on this slate, along with Toronto, the two most popular teams by far on this slate? How do you kind of look at this matchup and say, all right, do I just want to get to more Mets or more Toronto?
So the way it looks right now, I think I probably get to more Toronto, even though I like the spot better for the Mets. I think Lyles is a better pitcher than Justin Dunn, but right now we have Toronto with a 15% chance of being the top stack, Mets at 17%, but Mets pulling 25% ownership compared to 16 for Toronto. So the way it looks right now, I think I would just get to more of the Blue Jays, even though I do prefer the spot for the Mets. The other issue is looking at the individual ownership on the Mets. It's not like you have one or two guys really driving the ownership. Everybody in the lineup, with the exception of Escobar and McCann, are projected for at least 13% ownership on DraftKings. So as a whole, it's just going to be difficult to differentiate within that lineup as well.
Yeah, and there's no dual eligibility on any single Met. Like that would be the other thing too, and maybe that's just me kind of thinking through it on a small slate. I don't have any ability to move any single player to another position and to like change up the combinations that I'm going to get with these Mets hitters. So I feel more inclined to get to Toronto simply because of positionality. Does that make any sense, or am I overthinking that?
No, I mean, I think that makes sense too, just because if you think about how often a player is going to be in the optimal lineup, if they have multiple positions, it's just going to go up. Right. And on top of that, you also can't stack the 4 and 5 hitters together from the Mets on DraftKings. You can on FanDuel since you have the utility spot, but Pete Alonso and Daniel Vogelbach, both first base only. So that makes it more difficult to stack them as well.
Clay Walker, 1, 2, 3, 4 bats in my lineup of the New York Mets. Way to go. Way to go. Way to get different. I don't know. You're playing with infinity dollars too, then. Those are pretty expensive bats. Guys, Sean V. 200 likes? Really? If we get over 200 likes, we ban Sean V? Just for a hot second. Loco wouldn't go all completely nuclear on the world, would he? Maybe, maybe not. Emac showing up. He's getting all the love. He gets more love than us. Hit the like button for Emac 2024. How about that? Adam, you really don't want to be here today, do you?
No, I'm good.
Okay, I'm having fun. I'm just making sure. I'm just so worried about your well-being. I don't want you to go on a bender because a bender of Adam proportions is not a normal person bender.
No, it's not. But no, I'm good. I'm recovering from yesterday. But
Okay.
yeah, I'm over it.
Can I give you like a virtual hug?
No,
Not even a hot pocket? An ego?
I was watching that on I think maybe the flight to Chicago.
How about no, Scott? I knew you were going to do something stupid, Jordan Klein. Underdog, guys. You guys want to check out the Puppy 3? I did a lot of best ball drafts over the weekend. It was a lot of fun. It's fun to be getting the football mind working. We are less than 5 weeks away from NFL Sundays constantly. You want to get into this Puppy 3 before it fills up, and it's getting close. It's over 75% filled, I believe, now. It is going to be awesome, but we have a best ball kit going for it right now. It is phenomenal. $1 gets you that with promo code PUPPY3. Go to stokastic.com/promos. Get the best ball in fantasy football rankings, premium strategy content, consensus rankings, everything you could possibly want for best ball purposes. Use directly on the screen over at Underdog using Puppy3, $1 for the weekly best ball draft kit access. Also, NFL preseason, we have DFS projections for it, and Matt Kajewski is really good at it. Let me just tell you, we're giving them to you guys for $1 up through August 10th with promo code preseason. So that's a 2-for-1 deal. $2, basically the cost of like a chicken sandwich at McDonald's. Less than that, I'm assuming, gets you both the preseason weekly pass and the Stokastic fantasy football best ball content. So Puppy 3 preseason, use those 2 promo codes and go win yourself some money in the NFL streets. Cannot wait. All right, we continue on in the baseball streets. Nationals, Cubbies, Hannibal Sanchez, Keegan Thompson. Oh boy, can't imagine that I'm going to feel very good rostering either one of these pitchers, but I have shares of both right now, even in like a 20 max setting. It doesn't feel good. Sanchez at 6,500, Thompson, I believe a lot more in 6,700. But this just comes down to looking at the game environment, and the wind's blowing in hard in Wrigley Field. Have to have a little exposure to both. Do you have exposure to Hannibal Sanchez? Are you as sick as me?
Yeah, I think it's fine in tournaments. I mentioned him when we talked about Kukuchi. It's kind of the similar thing where he's not very good, but he's also really low owned, and he's one way that you can differentiate your lineups. The one nice thing about him compared to Kukuchi, while he doesn't have nearly the same strikeout stuff, he is allowed to go deeper into games. In his 4 starts this year, 90, 93, 108, and 97 pitches for Sanchez. So that, works in his favor. Like if he's pitching well, at least you can have confidence that he's going to keep pitching. And like you said, the weather is favorable for pitching as well. It's only like 70 degrees, wind blowing in. There are strikeouts in the Cubs lineup. There's also a lot of power. So it's certainly a risky spot, and Sanchez isn't very good. 17% strikeout percentage through his first 4 starts this year, 5.27 xFIP. There's nothing here that you're looking at and saying like, oh, I'm confident in him, but he's cheap, he's fully stretched out, and he's facing a team that does have some strikeouts.
Yeah, most of the Mets lineups that I'm putting together have Sanchez as a part of it. So best of luck to me in that regard. That's going to surely go well. But let's talk Keegan Thompson. He's far more applicable to this slate. A much safer, quote unquote, option, mainly because of the lineup that's on the other side of him. Spoiler alert, it's not very good.
Yeah, it's bad. There aren't a lot of strikeouts in it. That's the only negative. And Thompson's got about a 20% strikeout percentage this year with a 4.54 xFIP. So kind of just a middle of the road mediocre pitcher. But this is one of the worst offenses in baseball in terms of production. So that combined with the weather, it just sets up nicely for Thompson at that price point. I think he should be the most popular of the cheap pitchers. I think the gap, when you're talking 17% to Thompson compared to 3% for Hannibal Sanchez is probably wider than it should be, but he certainly projects the best out of that group, and I understand why he's getting the ownership.
Gun to your head, you have to roster a Washington bat. Who do you take? probably shouldn't say that in your current state. I apologize.
I think you could make cases for anybody in the top 4 and Keegan Ruiz.
Okay.
Looking at
playing
Thompson,
a 5-man would just be asinine of this team, though, right?
Playing a 5-man stack?
Yeah.
I think it would be pretty difficult to get to. Looking at Thompson so far this year, 191 expected ISO to righties, only 127 to lefties. So, maybe giving a little bit more weight to Robles, Voit, Cruz.
Okay. Oh, it just looks so bad.
How's he been at holding runners?
Who is?
I wanted to see.
You want to see the speed for specifically Lane Thomas?
I was thinking Victor Robles, but yeah.
Oh, he's fast too.
Lane
Thomas is faster, by the way.
What'd you say?
Lane Thomas is faster, by the way.
Keegan Ruiz steals bases too, but
he's only got 3 stolen bases this year. Weird. He's known for being fast coming out of AAA.
Lane Thomas.
Yeah.
Thompson's only allowed 1 stolen base this year in 93 innings.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Jesus. The anti Thor, if you will. That's for sure.
Yeah, 3 in 50-something innings last year.
Jesus. All right. Well, so we're not looking at Nationals to run, so that's exciting. We're going to be looking at Cubbies, though, if we're trying to get contrarian, and this is one of the teams. I mean, Sanchez is so bad. I at the same time that I'm going to get to some of him over the course of the season, he's got over a 10% walk rate, 17% K percentage. He hasn't been hit up very hard, but there's a track record of that being the case, and so I'm going to trust the track record more than I'm going to look at a small sample size where he has a 33.3% hard hit percentage and just his 375 WOBA is bad. Talk to me about the Cub stack, which would be very contrarian on this slate.
Yeah, and obviously not much of a sample size from Sanchez this year. He didn't pitch last year, but if you go back to the start of 2020, 242 expected ISO to righties for Sanchez, 127 to lefties. You do have plenty of right-handed power in this lineup with Contreras, Suzuki, Wisdom, Nico Horner, and Velasquez are both capable hitters. Hap obviously from the left side, but the weather isn't good for hitting. We've already touched on that, but still a 4.7 implied run total for the Cubs, and still plenty of power here against a pretty bad pitcher in Sanchez. So even though the weather isn't great, I do like the idea of getting to the Cubs. They are projected for some ownership right now, coming in at about 11%, but I don't think that's overly concerning.
Whoa. Guitar Man 247, not as fast as Eric at Spearfish, led the boys with 25 points, took the game over in the 4th. You're looking at my high school basketball stats while I'm on a show? Is this real life? That was 2006, homie. He's looking up 16-year-old stats from South Dakota high school basketball. I can't imagine that's a productive use of your time. I did have 25 in that game. Perfect from the field, too. 10 for 10, 5 for 5 from the line, but whatever. Didn't miss a shot.
Was that like a state championship or just a random game?
It was a random game. You have to travel. So you have East and West River. You have the Missouri River that goes through the middle of the state. And I'm from Sioux Falls East Side, and you would always take the bus 5.5 hours to Rapid City, and you'd always play 2 teams, be it Sturgis, Spearfish, or then the 2 Rapid City schools. But legitimately, I didn't even shoot a 3. That was probably the only game all season long that I didn't shoot a 3 because the guy who was guarding me was 5'6", and I was 6'2". So I just created pain for his life. I think I elbowed him in the mouth on accident one time. I went 10 for 10 from the field. Perfect outing.
Looked like Greg scoring on Alex in Chicago.
It's so true. It looks like we're on Jay Kari scoring on me, but we're not going to go there. He's a large individual. Probably shouldn't have done that while I was drinking, but whatever. Stuff happens in your life. We move on. I will say the Cubs are far more popular than what I thought they were from this morning. I just refreshed it. Good Lord. This might be a team that's difficult for me to get to at current ownership.
So the individual ownership, I think, is a little bit more appealing. Rafael Ortega is projected for 17%. Contreras and Hap are at 15 and 14. Wisdom's at 11. But Seiya Suzuki, 7%. Nelson Velasquez, 5%. I think both of those stand out as pretty solid options. Horner's at 8%. So I think from a full stack perspective, you can mitigate that ownership pretty easily.
I do not know Sean Jordan. I don't know who that is, but I know a Sean and I know a Jordan. One of them is Jordan Klein behind the virtual pay. But why do I always say the paywall? You're not behind the virtual paywall. You're behind the virtual glass. You're just there. You want to wave to everybody? You're banging in your gray tee, baby. Give the flex to the people. No, that would cheer Adam up.
He's just no selling you.
It's not very kind. Whatever. Giants, Padres. Should we do one more game or should I do a read? You tell me what to do.
You can do a read.
See,
I'll open some Rainmakers packs.
Can we open one live? I want to hear a live opening of Rainmakers as you go through. Guys, right now, 30 seconds or less. Head to oddshopper.com. It is by far the best spot. I mean, I start my day going to OddShopper every single day now, not just because I'm doing tools and content out here and I want to give you guys the best available information, but because I think it's truly the best spot you can possibly go for sports betting on a day in, day out basis. You know what I'm getting at. All you have to do is put in your email, you click login, and boom, all of a sudden you have every single bet in the MLB streets available to you. Hit a home run, total strikeouts. You can group it by team. You can group it by game. You have all of the opportunities in the entire world to make money in the MLB prop streets. We also have NFL coming out here very, very shortly. We have NBA when that gets back alongside NHL, golf for the St. Jude Classic. You're going to see some of the best bets on the board for that as well. But I mean, as I'm looking at the board today, Vlad Guerrero to hit a home run, 22% expected ROI, plus 390. Plus 390 is a big number. I don't care about ballpark dimensions when you're talking about an ROI of 22% with Vlad Guerrero Jr. over at the sports book that is listed there. You get Kukuchi, the under of his 4.5 strikeouts there. I'm less inclined to be going there with McKenna. I would imagine that projection will be going up here very, very shortly because Ryan McKenna leading off is a difficult thing there. But we've got Jose Suarez. We're going to talk about a little bit later here, the under on his 4.5 strikeouts. We're talking about things all with a greater than a 20% expected ROI. Those are the ones you really want to be keying in on at sportsbooks. And then for me on Prize Picks, expected win percentage. You can simply go up to the tools section and get the Prize Picks parlay where you're able to get exactly what the best expected win percentage plays on the board are for that given day. Obviously, we don't have the fantasy score or anything else attached to that. You're going to need your Stokastic projections in order to have those, and that's where there's some serious edges. But you go to that tools section, you go to Prize Picks parlay, and boom, every single one of the best expected win percentages are in order for you, top 5 going down the line, all of them being strikeout props today. So, hey, check those out on a daily basis and win yourself some money. Let's get to it, though. Oddshopper.com. Thank you so much to all the guys. Alex Baker, Steve Buzzard, who keeps winning MLB GPPs, comes back from vacation and takes over the world again. That's beautiful to see. You get Sean Zahn, Eddie Lai. We're talking the smartest minds in the DFS streets now, helping you guys through projections at Oddshopper. Cool. Next game. What'd you get in your pack?
So the first 3 sucked, but then the second to last one, I got a Damian Harris Elite, and the final one, I got a Jalen Hurts Elite. So happy with those.
Oh, Damian Harris. Nothing like getting an RB3 in a pack. It's great.
Yeah, the Jalen Hurts one was nice, though.
I'm kidding. Damian Harris is fine. He'll do great from the 2-yard line poaching Ramondre Stevenson all season long. That'll be fun. Oh, no. I think Bill Belichick still has a hard-on for Damian Harris, so it is what it is. But
I can totally buy into the narrative that they just run him into the ground and then let him walk.
That's exactly what I think is going to happen. Yeah. Just he no longer has legs. Oh, right. Well, that's too bad. We can't give you money. That's why being a running back is the worst thing you could have your kid do if you're going to have them play football and want them to get to the NFL.
Yeah.
Play any other position. But if you're 5'6", I guess you don't really have a choice, right?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what you're doing.
Get some really cool squat videos, though. Get the clout on Instagram. It's not so bad. You should try it. Giants, Padres, Alex Wood, Blake Snell. You want to go get some powerlifting in? I think you do.
What?
I think you need to start. I think that's what we need to do. We need to channel this energy in a positive way.
I've been lifting.
Being upset. Yeah. See, that's what I'm getting at. That's beautiful stuff. Rather than drinking yourself into oblivion. I worry about you.
Yeah. No, I've been working out a lot more and not drinking.
Except for this weekend.
Yeah, outside of this weekend.
Okay. Alex Wood, Blake Snell. Blake Snell, really, really popular. Let's talk about him first. Over 50% ownership on DK. On FanDuel, 9,400. He's $1,000 less than Chris Bassett. That means he is even more popular over there. but he's still the top 1% pitcher percentage, 12.3%. I mean, he's really popular and he's a really good pitching option on both sites. Talk to me about Blake Snell and your interest there.
Yeah, I mean, he looks great. Like, it's always scary when Blake Snell's popular because he's such a volatile pitcher. He walks too many guys and can really get himself in trouble with the 12% walk rate. But highest strikeout percentage on the slate by a mile at 30.2%. Next closest is Kukuchi at 25.5%, but we already talked about, he's not actually a good pitcher. Chris Bassett, 24.3%. So Snell just far and away leading the slate in strikeout percentage. 3.61 xFIP is good. So it's, a mediocre matchup against the Giants, but 75 degrees in San Diego, not great hitting weather by any stretch. Cheap enough price tag. I totally agree with him being the most popular pitcher.
Red Skittles. Adam's selective hearing and Lindy's incessant rambling pair very well together, like wine and cheese. I would agree. Peanut Newer, if you will. You know what that's from?
No.
Dr. Steve Brule. You don't know what that's? Peanut Newer. Sweet barrel wine.
What's it from?
You've never seen this before? Oh.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
You're a doctor. Doctor. You don't know what I'm talking about, Steve Brule?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh my God, I'm sending it to you after this. Chat, somebody, come in and save me. Dr. Steve Brule, give me your favorite quotes. You have to have seen that on Adult Swim at some point. What's his face? From Step Brothers. Not Will Ferrell, but the other guy.
John C. Reilly?
John C. Reilly. He does Dr. Steve Brule. Google the shit out of that. Actually, after our show, YouTube it and watch all of it. I'll send you the link to some of the best ones. It's just chaotic. Gotta watch the Wasabi. Tim and Eric is a terrible show. You're a terrible show, fat star. Sweet Bear Wine. CT McBee knows. It's so beautiful. God. You're a pretty pirate. So weird that you don't have any context for anything that I'm saying.
Who is Tim?
Tim, what are you talking about?
You said Tim and Eric is a terrible show.
I don't know. I don't know who Tim and Eric. Oh, Tim and Eric. It must be on Adult Swim.
Oh, I thought they were saying you and somebody named Tim, and I was trying to think of who.
We don't talk about Tim anymore, Adam. We don't talk about him. Same way we don't talk about a lot of former analysts that did things in the world. But it's okay. Cancel culture. Fun stuff. Yeah, and Eric were okay, there you go. Tim and Eric is horrible. So good. They're not talking about me. If they are, sorry, Tim. I feel bad for you too. Let's talk Alex Wood. How about that?
Yeah, he's an interesting pitcher in tournaments, I think. The matchup against the Padres is obviously difficult. This lineup is just really good now that they've added Soto, Bell, and Drury. Makes the lineup a lot deeper, but you could make a case that Wood is the most talented pitcher on the slate, or having the best season at least. 3.29 xFIP leads the slate, 23.5% strikeout percentage. He's a really good pitcher, and he's just not getting ownership. He's coming in at 4%, so at 7,600. So I understand why Zach Gallen's getting more ownership against Pittsburgh at that price point. I understand why Cole Irvin's getting more ownership because he's facing the Angels, but I do think Wood's going quite a bit under-owned. If you look at the top pitchers tool, not only do we have him with a 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher at 4% ownership, but every pitcher ahead of him in top 2 percentage is getting double-digit ownership. And then you just have Alex Wood sitting there at 4%. So I do think he's an interesting option in tournaments.
I love Spags. I would never say anything about Spags. I absolutely adore and love that man. That's not who I'm talking about. Not even talking about anybody that anybody's brought up there. I finally saw the first person say the name. Congratulations, Larry C. You win a prize. Let's go to offenses here because, well, San Diego theoretically has a good offense. I didn't see it in LA over the weekend, but theoretically, that is what I am led to believe. So we should be looking at that. And they definitely have some hitters that stand out, but overall on this slate, it feels like there's just 2 teams at the top, and then everybody else is contrarian to a certain extent, except for the Cubs, surprisingly enough. But how do you feel about the Padres as a contrarian stack?
I like them too. Obviously I just made the case for Alex Wood, but this is just one of those spots where neither side projects that well, or well enough for them to become really popular, because Wood is a good pitcher and the Padres are a good offense. But that doesn't mean that there is an upside here. If you played this game out 100 or 1,000 times, there's gonna be plenty of times where the Padres just light up Alex Wood, or Alex Wood dominates the Padres. So it's just an example of, I think, the amount of respect people have for the Padres lineup and the respect people have for Alex Wood. They're just not playing either side often enough. So I like the Padres in tournaments as well.
Okay. And San Francisco, I don't really know. I mean, if you're Sean's on, we know he's going to stack against everybody that's popular, and Blake Snell's going to be popular. Do you see any path to the Giants being able to pull off the upset, so to speak?
I mean, I think if you were going to stack against one of Snell, Bassett, or Gallen, I would go with San Francisco. But I still doubt that I'm really going to get there. Just not, I don't weight that nearly as much as I assume Sean does, given the lineups that he plays. So not really my strategy or my style. You also, of course, have to deal with the fact that some of these guys are probably not going to see a plate appearance after like the sixth inning. But there are some cheap bats. JD Davis at 2,200 is kind of interesting. Austin Slater, assuming he's leading off at 3,600, looks okay. But I don't think I get to the Giants. I'm probably more likely to get to them than I am the Reds or the Pirates, though.
If you, I don't even know. We have 23 minutes left in the show. And so, I mean, we have plenty of time to kind of get there. Do you think the Padres are capable of going out and winning a series against the Dodgers based off of this weekend? Or is it just something we shouldn't even be thinking about until Tatis Jr. gets back?
I mean, I have no idea what happened this weekend, but I do think the Padres can win a series against the Dodgers.
They got ran over by a train.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would assume the Dodgers are favorites, but I think the Padres can, it wouldn't be shocking if the Padres won.
No. NL is so stacked, dude. It's outrageous. Like the Mets with a healthy DeGrom, that's absurd. The Brewers, when they get Peralta back, say that again.
DeGrom throwing 96-mile-an-hour sliders.
Did you watch that? I
saw the Pitching Ninja tweet.
He is ludicrous. And Edwin Diaz out of the pen, stop it. Maybe the greatest. Do you like the trumpet entrance? I think it's the coolest thing ever.
I saw that for the first time the other day, and yeah, it was cool.
Enter Sandman or the trumpets?
Enter Sandman.
I'd probably have to still
also Hell's Bells.
Oh yeah. Oh, so good. It was Hell's Bells. Sorry.
No, Enter Sandman was Rivera. Hell's Bells.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Hell's Bells was Hoffman.
Hoffman. Okay, thank you. I couldn't remember who had that one for a second, but yeah, everybody knows Rivera. That's for sure. But Edwin Diaz, so ridiculous there. But yeah, Freddie Peralta, when he gets healthy for the Brewers, that's going to be a team to be paying attention to. The Padres win all the way F in. And then the Dodgers are just the Dodgers. They didn't really have to do anything. And if they can fix Joey Gallo, you got him for free. So that's cool.
Yeah, I actually would have liked the Orioles to go that route, but obviously they didn't.
Why not sell off Mancini? Just screw it. Just punch you in the face as a fan base.
I mean, it was the right move.
I know, but you didn't get really that much back for him to justify it.
We got now the Orioles got their 8th and 12th ranked prospects, and their farm system is stacked. So
yeah, it's true.
The guy they got in that deal from Tampa in particular, Seth Johnson, just had Tommy John surgery, but supposed to be good. Throws 100, was a first round pick, I think 2 years ago.
Orioles theoretically are supposed to have a top 3 farm system or a top 3 prospect train, right? They have a lot of guys coming in.
They have the best farm system in baseball.
Yeah, they're going to be good in pretty short order. It's going to be fun to watch.
Year, I think.
All right. Kyle Farmer scratched. He's not good ever.
Yeah, that's not super important.
Who do they even replace him with in Cincinnati?
I have no idea who's even on the Reds.
I'm trying to think of who could possibly play. I mean, Jose Pereira is going to have to play shortstop now. New lineup. Let's see what it ends up being. Oh, they just put Senzel. Was he even in the original lineup?
He was already in the lineup.
He was already in. So disgusting. Oh, Solano, congratulations. What a terrible, terrible baseball team. That's the one thing I won't miss about baseball season when it's NFL season is I just don't want to talk about shitty teams anymore. I just want to get to the playoffs.
I mean, there's plenty of shitty NFL teams.
I know, but they're 0-0 when they start week 1.
Sure.
So technically everybody has a clean slate.
Yeah, that's true.
You could make the Jaguars 0-8 though, and that'd be fine, I suppose. I don't know. Do you have a Super Bowl pick?
Who plays in the NFL?
You're the stone cold worst. Way to go, sports fan over there. Let's continue on. I've killed enough time. We're going to what is next? Angels.
Larry C just said Gunnar Henderson is the top prospect now in Baseball America. I'd seen that he was the top prospect. I just hadn't seen what source it was from. So glad to know that.
Good times. Pirates, Diamondbacks, Tyler Beede. He's not going to pitch very long. He doesn't matter. Zach Gallen matters a lot for this slate. And I love betting him from a betting perspective. I feel like I've backed Zach Gallen just about every single time out, 6-2 on the season, just across the board good. Not as good as a Chris Bassett, where you see bright red when you head to Baseball Savant, but Zach Gallen still a 301 xWOBA, 370 expected slugging, 23.3% K percentage, and an awesome matchup against a Pittsburgh team that the way that you were saying, oh, there's not a lot of strikeouts available in Cincinnati. There are a ton available when you face Pittsburgh. Everybody in the lineup, except for Kevin Newman, above a 22% K rate in today's lineup. How you feeling about Zach Gallen compared to the other top-end options garnering tons of ownership?
Yeah, I mean, he looks great. The price tag at 7,900 is favorable. The matchup is excellent. He's a good pitcher, 23.5% strikeout percentage, 3.84 xFIP. And right now we have Blake Snell projected as the clear top scoring pitcher. Gallen's not that far behind Chris Bassett. We have him within 1 point on DraftKings, and he's $1,400 less. So, right now we have Bassett and Gallen both pulling around 39% ownership. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually even got to a little bit more Gallen, just given the price point.
I'm getting to a lot of him. I think I'm going to get to a little bit more of him. I'm not sure. Blake Snell is just so easy to fit into lineups that I understand, but like 7,900 Gallen goes a long way to get to some of the top end bats for me. So like, I don't know. Chris Bassett, Blake Snell, Zach Gallen, they're the three most popular by far, and I think they should be. That all makes sense. If you had to guess, who do you think you get the most of? Rank them 1, 2, 3, just off the top of your head before you build lineups.
Probably Snell, Gallen, Bassett.
Okay.
And it's not a knock on Bassett. Like, I think he's a great play, but he's just the most expensive of the three and projects close enough to Gallen. I assume I end up getting more of Gallen.
Yeah, I think I probably end up with more of Gallen too, as I'm kind of figuring it out. But Chris Bassett, obviously phenomenal spot. Kyle Farmer scratched. It doesn't matter at all to me. What did I just see about bullpen game? Yeah. So bullpen games generally matter, but you're talking about the fourth worst bullpen in terms of ERA and WHIP on the season, that being Pittsburgh. And the only guy who's any which way serviceable is Will Crow. And you'd need a competitive game for him to get thrown out there in the eighth. So I don't really see this being a negative as a bullpen game. If it's going to go Tyler Beede and then DeYoung, I still think I'm going to get to some Arizona on the other side. Are you with me, or are you kind of steering clear because it is a bullpen game?
It's more so the ownership that's the concern for me, I think. Like, when you look right now, Arizona's getting 15% aggregate ownership. Toronto's at 16, Mets are at 25. But we have Toronto 1.5 times as likely to be the top stack. And we have the Mets, 1.7 times as likely. So I realize they're not as good of a value, but I think with the pitching pricing being what it is, it's going to be easy enough to fit in the bats that I want from those teams. So the ownership's concerning to me somewhat here. Bullpen games in general, I don't think are super appealing, but it's not, a reason that I'm just like running away from Arizona or anything. But I do think I would want the ownership to come down a bit before I got there.
That's fair.
Out of the three most popular teams, I think I would expect Arizona to be the one that I get to the least, the way things look right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, they have some guys you could play a 2K flat set beer for free. He's 2K. Nobody's playing him. Sub 4%. Carson Kelly, just throw the catcher in. He's just 5%.
That's a good point. I mean, there are 4 guys in the lineup projected under 10% ownership.
There's ways to get there. I mean, obviously, do I prefer Christian Walker by a landslide, considering he's still under 4K? I don't quite understand that. He has 49,000 home runs on the season, give or take. No, good talk. Glad we had it. 26 home runs on the season. Oh, but he's got a 203 average. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. What does it all mean? It means tournaments. So
26 home runs for Walker?
Christian Walker has 26 home runs this season.
Wow.
Yeah.
Former Oriole, but I had no idea he had 26 home runs.
Yeah. He'd look pretty good alongside Mountcastle at the moment, would he not?
Yeah. He would have been a nice guy to trade at the deadline. Wow. He hasn't been on the Orioles since 2015.
2015. It's been a long time, homie.
Yeah.
He also had some struggle bus years in the middle of this.
I would have guessed like 2018 or something.
Dude has 26 home runs. That's kind of wild when you think about it. It's lots of home runs. Cool.
Only striking out 19% too.
I say he's having a really, really good year. I feel like on Live Before Locks, I'm just like, play him as a one-off, play him as a one-off, play him as a one-off. That's something I seem to say constantly every day. And I think I've said it for like 3 months. So hopefully somebody's heard me say that a million times and can back me up on that one.
Thanks, Larry C. Yeah, I was looking at FanDuel Top Stack, not DraftKings.
Idiot.
Yeah, so I do, now that I'm looking at the correct thing, I do like Arizona a little bit more. Like, they're still the third most popular team. 12% ownership's, a little bit more reasonable.
Yeah, I can get to a little bit. But yeah, Rojas, Alec Thomas, Ketel Marte, they're all going to be really, really popular. But I get to that Walker Varsho and then get to like Jake McCarthy in the outfield. The middle of that order is always pretty low owned comparatively. So just something to pay attention to. But yeah, those guys are popular and too cheap. So it is what it is. Anything else we got to talk Pittsburgh, I think. Do we have to talk Pittsburgh? We probably have to talk Pittsburgh.
I mean, they suck. Gallen's good. Pittsburgh's really bad. If your strategy is just to stack against popular pitchers, then obviously get to some Pittsburgh. But again, just not really the approach that I take.
O'Doyle, I got a feeling your family's going down. Artie Van Housen, always good for I like that reference. I don't know where that came from. Somebody say O'Doyle? I didn't even see it there. Let's continue on, shall we? 2 games to go, 12 minutes, plenty of time. We're going to be turning it over to our friends Josh and Greg on the Live Before Lock crew. Looking forward to that one. You don't have to go anywhere. You're just going to hang out here on this stream. And while you're at it, sign up right now for Stokastic tools and content. Here's what you want. You want the top pitchers tool. You want the top stacks tool. You want the top batters tool. All of that is behind the paywall. In front of it today, we have MLB player projections. I know Jordan's going to do a great job of showing you everything on the screen, but if you want the best tools in the industry for MLB, and I don't think it's remotely close, use promo code MLBDD. If you've been thinking about it, if you've been on the fence and you're like, I don't know, think about it. You have a whole week of baseball starting Monday to next Monday to be able to try everything out here for 50% off. I know we're all going to be falling into the football trap here sooner rather than later, but it's not just the MLB product you're going to get. You're going to get NFL. We'll have preseason projections posted underneath Stokastic Platinum. We'll have everything you have for NASCAR, for PGA, with the FedEx Cup playoffs starting this weekend. There is tons and tons of money to be made in the DFS streets this week, and you can get it all right now for 50% off. All the tools and content that can help you be a winner over there using promo code MLBDD. Go use that at checkout right now over at Stokastic and stop guessing, start winning, and join us here behind the paywall at Stokastic today. Cool. 2 games. Next up, we've got the Angels and Athletics, Jose Suarez and Cole Irvin, a pair of southpaws. And I don't really know how I land on these guys more so. I mean, I'm a disgusting human being and I'm playing Sanchez, so there's that. But Suarez pulling ownership and Cole Irvin pulling ownership. I think Irvin has the better matchup, and so I'm just getting to a little bit more of him. But if you had to pick one of these 2 pitchers to be overweight on 12%, almost identical ownership, which one would you rather roster today?
Probably Irvin. The matchup against the Angels, I mean, there's just so many strikeouts in this lineup. And Irvin, he only has a 17% strikeout percentage this year. 4.32 xFIP is, pretty mediocre. I think that it's a good matchup for Suarez as well. And he does have a little bit better strikeout percentage at 20%. But I'm just a little bit more concerned about just the number of right-handed bats in this lineup for Oakland. Like, I just think that it's a little bit more difficult matchup for Suarez. He has a lot of 189 expected ISO to righties this year. Also has a 23% strikeout percentage against them. But I'm just a little bit less concerned about the matchup for Irvin as long as he's able to navigate his way around Ward and Ohtani.
Yeah, because then you get Seth Brown, Sean Murphy, Ramon Laureano, Chad Pinder, even Steven Piscotty, Sky Bolt. It could be something eventually. I don't really know. He's a lefty, so whatever. I don't know if he's in that lineup today. Probably not.
He's
but
hitting 90s, he's a switch hitter.
Oh, he's there? Okay. I didn't pull it up. Let me see. Okay. Well, there you go. I didn't know he was a switch hitter. You learn something new every day.
The 5 hitter. Wow.
Oh, wow. Tough times in Oakland there.
Yeah.
Jonah Bride leading off. That's going to be popular per usual, but it's Oakland. Wind suppressed. It's 66 degrees, but I mean, if you're not going to like the really 2 nice game environments, that being Toronto and Baltimore and the Mets, I think everything else is just kind of fair game. Everything else kind of grades out the exact same, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that it's kind of yeah, there's a pretty big drop. I mean, like looking at the top stacks tool, you have those three teams above 10% in the Mets, the Blue Jays, and Arizona. And then you have the Cubs at 8%. Every other team on the slate, with the exception of Pittsburgh and San Francisco, is at least 4%. So it's just a lot of really similar teams outside of the Mets, Toronto, and Diamondbacks.
All right. Well, the Angels, you still have Ward and Ohtani. You get Joe Adell, who I can't quit you. I just can't. He's my Brokeback Mountain. Max Stassi at the catcher position. Nothing else that I really see all that interesting for me from the Angels. Pretty low implied run total, under 4. How many Angels are you planning on getting to today?
Yeah, I mean, Irvin's had some power issues with righties, but the park helps downplay that. And there's just not that many that I'm concerned about. I think Ward and Ohtani are pretty much always playable. Joe Adell, like you said, it's a pitcher that doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, so maybe he'll accidentally hit the ball. And when he does, good things happen. Max Stassi's a reasonable catching option, but I think it's pretty difficult to get to the Angels. I'm more likely to get to the A's between these two, just because I do think the Bride offers value with multi-position eligibility. Pinder's got some power. Murphy, I think, is a good catcher option. Laureano looks like a good option. Andrus is a cheap shortstop option. So I think I'm more likely actually to get to Oakland than I am the Angels.
I'm with you. Bet them minus 115. Gonna look at this lineup. I just think Oakland, it's so weird to say, but does Oakland have a better lineup top to bottom than the Angels do?
I think so.
It's the weirdest thing to say out loud because they're both egregiously bad. But
the crazy thing to me is if you just look at the active roster for the Angels, they have a 93 WRC plus. Oakland's 91, but that's including Shohei Ohtani.
Yep.
If you didn't have Shohei Ohtani pulling that number up, it would be unbelievably bad.
Failure. There's a Caddyshack quote for you.
I don't think I've seen it. I think I've seen parts at times, but I'm not sure I've ever watched it start to finish.
Where do we go from here? Jordan, what do I even do with this information? I say we just take him off the screen and it's just me for the last 6 minutes. Cause you've never seen Caddyshack. Are you a real person?
It's just one of those movies that slip through the cracks, I guess.
Unslip it through the uncracks and watch that god-darn move. Oh, whatever. We have one game to go. Well, we're waiting.
I've seen Happy Gilmore.
Oh, well, good for you. Yeah. Into par 4. Yeah, he's gonna hit a 9-iron. And the crowd goes wild. Isn't no? It's not bad. It's not good, but it's not bad. Let's go to the last game of the night. Hit the like button, even though you guys already sent Sean V to purgatory, and we got a $9.99. No Ohtani on FanDuel tonight. That makes no sense to me. But Jay Willie, $9.99. No question. ... I like the channel. Keep it up! Exclamation. We will keep it up, Jay Willie. Appreciate you for the $10 super chat. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that. Just getting $10 randomly for existing. That's pretty cool. Sounds like a stripper in Adam's life. Just money for existing. Well done.
Yeah. So Blitz had a good point too. You're older than me. Caddyshack came out 10 years before I was born.
Dude, I'm 34. It's not like I'm catastrophically older than you. I'm like a year older than you.
2, but I thought you were Josh's age.
2.
I thought you were 37.
Gee, thanks. Just shut the fuck up and start talking baseball. Yankees, Mariners, Jameson Taillon, Logan Gilbert. They're both just dudes on a slate that exist against good offenses, whatever. Tell me, same thing as Suarez and Irvin. You pick one. Who do you pick?
Between Taillon and Gilbert?
Yeah.
I think Taillon, it's close. No Julio Rodriguez, of course, for Seattle. They did get Mitch Haniger back, so that makes the lineup look a little bit better. But this is it's kind of like the Alex Wood spot where these are, well, in Gilbert's case, a good pitcher. In Taillon's case, a good enough pitcher. 20.8% strikeout percentage for Taillon, 3.81 xFIP. Gilbert, 22.7% strikeout percentage, 3.8 xFIP. Really highly regarded young pitcher. So it's two good pitchers here, but it's just so difficult to take a pitcher against the Yankees. So you're only getting 11% ownership coming into Gilbert. You're only getting 5% to Jameson Taillon, which I think is pretty surprising. He does have some issues, particularly with left-handed power, 190 expected ISO to lefties this year compared to 132 to righties, but not a ton of left-handed power in this lineup. I like Jesse Winker. Adam Frazier is leading off and left-handed and cheap, but it's just not that scary of a lineup, I don't think. So I'm interested in both pitchers in tournaments, but given the ownership, I think I probably actually get to Taillon before I get to Gilbert.
I get to Taillon too. I was going to talk about that. The lefties, I like Jesse Winker a lot as a one-off for today's slate. No doubt about it. As you said, Adam Frazier, he has no pop. But who gets popped a lot is Logan Gilbert. 47.4% hard hit percentage. That's suppressed a lot because of the ballpark. But guess what? Yankees come to town. If they make contact, I bet it goes really, really far. And I don't know how on a slate like this isn't a team that you have circled, starred, and you just say, I'm going to play a ton of Yankees and I'm going to try to find ways to win the slate, just in terms of like if the Mets and Toronto fail and I get to that late night window and I've got all the Yankees, I am sitting in a phenomenal spot, get a little bit of, look, it's not like Logan Gilbert's unowned either. So you get a little bit of that going back against the grain, but I am obsessed with the Yankees for tournaments tonight. How about you?
Yeah, I think they look good as well. They, on DraftKings, now that I'm looking at the correct thing, are every team above them in top stack percentage is getting double-digit ownership. They're getting half the ownership of like every team ahead of them. Part of that is because they're expensive, and so they're not offering the same sort of value. But anytime you can get to the Yankees at relatively low ownership, it's appealing. And like you were saying with Gilbert, I think he's a good pitcher overall. This park does also suppress power, but a 185 expected ISO to right-handed hitters this year. Aaron Judge always looks good. Donaldson hasn't been very good this year, but he's also relatively inexpensive. Torres looks pretty good. Carpenter, I have no idea what to make of him, but appears to have just rediscovered how to hit baseballs. So he's always playable in tournaments as well. It's just clearly a very, very good lineup that isn't getting much ownership.
I hope the lineup comes out late too, and I hope it has Rizzo in it. He didn't get put on the IL. He was out this weekend, and hopefully we can get Rizzo back in the mix there too, and just gives you another option to kind of rotate through. Yeah, they're expensive. They're tough to get to in some spots, but no pitcher is all that cost prohibitive on this slate. It's going to be pretty easy for me to get to shares of Snell and Bassett. Gallen probably ends up being the guy I get to the most of just because of how many Yankees I plan on getting to. And I'll just kind of live with the result of it. And then to round it all out, bring it home for us here. Seattle bats. You talked about Winker being kind of the main guy, lefty power going up against Taillon. But how do you feel about the stack to round it out?
Not overly interested. It is a tough park to hit home runs in. The ownership is more or less in line with where it should be. Individually, I do like Winker. Haniger is really cheap at 3,600 as well, but I don't anticipate getting to a lot of Seattle.
All righty. Well, that does it for us then, Adam. This was fantastic. This hour had a lot of waves and emotions. You've learned two things. One, you're an idiot for never having seen Steve Brule. And two, you're an idiot for not having seen Caddyshack before. So rectify those two things, or we're not doing a show again.
Is that a promise?
I see what you did. You're just never going to watch him, are you? It's not very nice. Thank you so much to Jordan Klein for watching me get abused live on YouTube streams constantly from Adam Scher and doing nothing about it. Way to go. Way to be a friend. Adam, any final words for the people as we get out of here?
No.
Okay. Well, see you guys later. We've got Josh. We've got Greg coming up here on Live Before Lock. Don't go anywhere. Hit that like button, though, so that we get credit for it and not Josh and Greg. Come on now. Hit that like button. We'll see you guys later. Have a good one. Best of luck.
What's up, everybody? Ben Razzie here for Odd Shopper, bringing you my best bet of the day. It is a new week. It is Monday, August 8th in the sports world. A lot to get to here. I'm going to talk about how to make some money with BetMGM and, of course, what my favorite bet of the day is. If you are discovering this channel, welcome to Odd Shopper. We got a lot of new people coming in. This is where you want to be for all things betting, breaking down these games, picking some winners like the Los Angeles Dodgers last night. That's what I'm talking about. Shutting out the San Diego Padres. That gets our week started off with some nice momentum, and we're going to hope to do that today when we scan the board. But, of course, let's talk about, if you're a bettor, you always have to take the layups. I've been saying that all year, and I strongly recommend doing that with BetMGM. They have a risk-free promo of up to $1,000 for new users. Promo code BensBet, or scroll the comments. It's pinned right there. You sign up. You deposit money, and whatever you deposit up to $1,000, you get that risk-free bet. It's an opportunity to grow your bankroll without taking the risk. If you lose, you get it back in free bets. That is the type of offer that we need to take advantage of when we are trying to grind out a profit. Now, we got to still find the picks, and that's what I'm here to do. Here we go. We're going to keep it going in baseball. We're going to the Cubbies. Cubbies and the Nats, two god-awful teams, and we're going to go to the first five. We're going to talk about why, but I am on the Cubs side. We're going to do our routine, try to uncover the edge, and talk about why I think this is the best bet on the board. The Nationals, 36-74, 19-34 on the road. They've lost 5 straight. They just got swept 4 straight games by the Phillies. They're continuing their road trip. The Cubs are not that much better, 43-64, 22-33 at home. They did just take 2 of 3 from the Marlins, and they are continuing a homestand. I like that. They've been at home. The Nationals are continuing a road trip. That's in our favor. Now, of course, with any of these, particularly a first 5 bet, we have to look to the starting pitching. Hannibal Sanchez is on the mound for the Nats, and my God, 0-4 with a 7.65 ERA. He's only pitched 5 innings on the road, so I don't really have anything to say there. Every time he's pitched this year, it's been terrible. He's made 4 starts. They've lost every game. He hasn't gone longer than 5 2/3. He's given up 6 home runs in 4 starts. There's just not a lot to point to that is positive there. It's just been rough. And if it continues there, we know that the Cubs are going to be able to put up some runs against him. And I don't even know if he gets out of the first 5. So we're talking about knocking him around and possibly getting him out of the game and getting into the bullpen in a first 5 type inning bet. That is what we want to do. Of course, we have the advantage on the mound because we have Keegan Thompson on the mound for the Cubs, 8-5 with a 3.48 earned run average. Very, very respectable.
Shit, where did Zoom go? There it is. And we are live. Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock. It is Monday, August 8th. I am Josh Engelman. I am joined by Greg Ehrenberg. We are brought to you by Odd Shopper. 7 games, very easy slate to break down. It's a simple one here. We don't have to worry about 14, 15 games, everybody playing, a bunch of nonsense at the end. We can get right into the meat of it. So hit that like button if you haven't done it already. And judging by the likes that I see on the screen right now, 240 plus with about 1,000 people in here. Seems like Eric and Adam did a pretty good job. And by Eric and Adam, I mean Eric specifically. I am quite confident that Adam asked for absolutely nothing during that show. But still, hit that thumbs up anyway. Greg, what's going on, man? How are you? How's your weekend?
It was very good. Also, I'm going to have to disagree with you on one point. I have a feeling, I've said this before, Adam agrees with me. So a lot of times I get credited for subs to the site. You get credited for subs to the site. But who's the common thread on those strategy shows? It's not you or I as the host. It's Adam as the analyst. So I think it's really Adam who drives all of the subs, all the subscriptions to the YouTube channel and to the site in general also. So let's not sleep on Adam's role in all of this. Other than that, the weekend was good. My sister's home for a couple weeks before school, so hung out with her. That was fun. Did some family stuff this weekend. So low key, but all fun.
Nice. I didn't expect you to verbally fillet Adam for the first minute of the show, yet here we are. I guess we can just put a pin in that for a bit. I'm not going to let everybody. If everybody in chat wants to just destroy him for that take, go for it. I'm going to let him go for right now. I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to do. I like this slate.
I will bet you people are going to be on my side with this.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think the amount of people that hit the like button on a show because Adam's on that show is minimal.
All right, guys. Do you more frequently hit the like button for Josh Engelman or Adam Schur?
I mean, this is a no-brainer.
You know what? Jordan, put a poll up.
No, that's a biased poll.
Yeah,
man.
No. I think people will tell the truth. Let's get a poll going.
No. There's no chance that anybody's going to vote positively in a poll where I am one of the answers. It's just not happening.
We'll see. We'll see what the poll says, and then we'll really see who it is that deserves a raise next year.
Aye. I'm waiting to see it pop up. There are a lot of Adams of people just answering in chat, which is this is going to end real poorly. Yeah. Look, there's what people are going to answer, and then there's the answer, and those two things aren't going to be the same thing.
We'll see. I think the people could be honest in the poll, and then we'll know.
Jordan's burner in chat here with the super chat. His like is for the guy behind the camera.
Oh, so. All right. Well, that's nobody. I mean, who watches film for the cameraman? That's an absolute of all the answers we could have given. That's the least accurate.
I'm quite confident no one's hitting it for Jordan. That I know. That I know for sure. This is going way better than I thought it was going to go for me, if I'm being honest.
We're also getting a lot more votes more quickly than I thought we were going to.
Oh, I expected them to really ramp up, but I thought this was going to be like 70-30 Adam. So this is working out pretty well for me.
Yeah, it's close. It's still slight edge towards Adam.
And we know that this poll is biased to begin with. So this answer really is like 65% me for sure. 70% me.
Good point, because people have short-term memories. You're on screen right now. Adam isn't. So they would be more slanted to answer you right now.
Yes. Although, and if we're being honest, should we even care what chat thinks to begin with? I mean, we're not exactly digging out of a really nice pool here. This is the bottom of the barrel. So I wouldn't expect anybody in chat to be getting this right to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. 167 people answered, and this is what is going to determine everybody's salary next year. So vote wisely, people.
This is fun. Chat, I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Thanks for running that up to about 300 likes. We will sneak over the top of that. Let's talk pitching for today. This is about as cut and dry as it could possibly be for me. I'm curious to see where we'll end up differing, but I know that we're going to be in the same place at the top end. I guess the easiest place for us to start is the guy with the most ownership. That would be Blake Snell, 8,800 on DraftKings right now, pulling close to 50% ownership, 48 and change. We may differ here slightly, but I think the overwhelming obvious piece is that he's clearly one of the three best options you can get to today.
Yeah, and pitching's thin today. It's because I really did look at the pitching board. I'm like, all right, where could I reasonably differentiate here? And you start to go down. It's like nowhere really. So I do have some contrarian spots I like at offense, which does make me feel a little bit better about playing the chalk at pitcher, which is not infrequent when it comes to my lineup builds. But I really wanted to get away from the Blake Snell chalk because I look at it. It's a matchup against the Giants who it's not a threatening offense on paper. They're a pain in the ass for DFS because they pinch hit a whole bunch. But Blake Snell is generating a whole bunch of strikeouts this year. He has a 30.2% K rate. He's had a strikeout rate over 30% basically every year he's been in the big leagues now and has pitched extended innings. So at first glance, I really did look at the pitching today and the ownership and be like, I don't want to play. And nearly 50% on Blake Snell on DK, massively popular on FanDuel. And then I build the lineups and it became so difficult to get away from him. And then even his recent fantasy production kind of indicates it's worth it just from this standpoint. Even when he gives up runs or he struggles with his command as of late, he's striking out so many hitters that it really raises the floor. And it's just hard to find other guys to pivot off him with. So I'm kind of begrudgingly playing the chalk here. I know I'm going to be kicking myself if he has a shitty fantasy game, but I just don't see somebody who I look at as a really good pivot option.
So for right now, I am slightly under the field on Blake Snell. He's in 36% of my lineups. That could change as we get a little bit closer. Like, I'm going to have a decent chunk of him. I'm not getting to that mark for the field. I am, however, jamming the hell out of Chris Bassett. I appear to be quite different than our site, where we have Blake Snell like 2 points ahead of Chris Bassett. I've got it the other way around. I am heavy on Bassett. The Reds, to me, absolute dog shit. This is a terrible lineup up and down the line. They're just bad. They do strike out a lot. And the key piece for me, and I think the piece that is big, like, I'm getting different with Bassett. Like, obviously Bassett's still 40% owned. The reason that I'm heavier on Bassett is simply that I expect him to go so much deeper in this game than Blake Snell does. I've got him I've got him 4 outs ahead of Blake Snell, and I think there's even more upside there. If Blake Snell throws 7 innings today, he is undoubtedly ripped through the Giants for him to get to that point. Whereas Chris Bassett could have like a pedestrian 7-inning game against the Reds. I'm betting on the volume of Bassett today more than the volatility of Snell. But either way, these guys are the best guys on the slate.
Yeah, and no disagreements from that standpoint, especially when you bring up the length that the pitchers are going to work into the game argument. Because Blake Snell, you mentioned Blake Snell, if he goes through 7 innings, he's going to tear apart the Giants, which is probably true, but at the same point too, how many times did you guess Blake Snell has gone 7 innings this year?
0? It would be my guess off the top of my head.
It has been 0, whereas Chris Bassett fairly regularly works longer than 6 innings into games. The last time, or actually in the last, let's see, so in all of the starts since June 14th, Snell's only had 2 starts where he didn't go past 6 innings, and it was because he pitched exactly 6 innings. So I agree with you. I think there's a lot more upside in terms of length in the ball game in Chris Bassett, which does kind of offset some of the lack of the strikeout upside that you get from Blake Snell, and he's an easier matchup. So, I mean, either way, Snell and Bassett are my 2 most rostered pitchers today. I think they're both excellent choices. But if you guys are in a situation where maybe you're trying to differentiate a single entry lineup a little bit and you're looking at these 2 pitchers, I don't see a whole lot that differentiates them. And we are getting Chris Bassett for about 10% less ownership. So I agree with you. I think that you could consider Bassett somewhat of a pivot, but at the same time too, I mean, he's 41% owned. So really strong option. I have no pushback against what you said.
Yeah, like, they're my 2 most exposed pitchers as well, but I just happen to have Bassett in 75% of my lineups. I just think the Reds are that bad, and I would like to get my money in the middle on the opposite side of the Reds as much as I possibly can. The ownership shows a very clear 3rd best option here. That would be Zach Gallen, 7,900, pulling Chris Bassett level ownership, 39, basically 40% ownership. I'm a little bit lighter than Gallen than the field, but he is my 3rd most exposed pitcher as well. I think it's very clear who the 3 best options are today. It's sort of just how you're allocating that ownership.
Yeah, it's for me primarily a 3-pitcher slate. Anybody else I'm rostering, it's kind of just, hey, this is who fit into a lineup when Cruncher was building lineups and who filled the final spot. Because there's only 3 guys I get significant amount of exposure to here, and it's the 3 that we're talking about right now. Zach Gallen, it's twofold, really. Number one, he's been good this year, 3.31 ERA, 3.72 expected ERA. The strikeouts are down a little bit this year compared to previous years, which is to be expected from this standpoint. There's no pitcher in the National League anymore. I think that's really what I attribute this little bit of a decline in strikeout rate to. But other than that, he's priced for it at this point. Earlier in the year when we were rostering Zach Gallen, you were paying $9,000 for him, $9,500. Today, he is $7,900 on DK, and he's more appropriately priced on FanDuel at $9,600. At $9,600, it's much harder for me to get behind him when Snell's actually cheaper than him. But on the DraftKings slate where we have to roster 2 pitchers, he comes with salary savings. I think he's pretty clearly the best cheap pitching option today.
We are on the same page there. It's really tough to talk pitching today because those first 3, like those 3 guys that we just talked about right now are making up 125% of the 200% of ownership that you could put together on DraftKings. Like there's not a lot to really sift out. Do you have a guy that's not getting ownership that you are trying to get to?
Not actively. Like there are guys that pop. So I will say Keegan Thompson is projected for nearly 20% ownership. I'm a little light on that number. And then beyond that, I really do try to look at this slate and be like, all right, who could I reasonably get behind? And it's, Cole Irvin's picking up ownership because he's going up against the Angels. All right, but I kind of think Cole Irvin sucks. And I think he's been massively lucky this year, and he doesn't generate a lot of strikeouts. So it's hard for me to really want to play a whole bunch of Cole Irvin. Logan Gilbert's pitching against the Yankees. I guess you can make a case for just the talent of Cole Irvin. Of Logan Gilbert, making him a worthwhile contrarian pitching option. But even then, like, do I really want to get way over the 10% mark when he's pitching against the Yankees? If I had to say one guy, and this would just be based on a little bit of strikeout upside, and I hate to say it because he's been so bad this year, but Yusei Kukuchi, as much as he sucks, he does strike guys out. And there's been individual starts where we've seen him have fantasy upside. The issue, it doesn't happen very often because he's terrible. And when his starts go south, he gives up a whole bunch of runs. He's a 4.86 ERA and a 5.82 expected ERA this year, but he's a 25.5% K rate. That is the highest mark of his career, and he's unowned. So if I'm trying to pick one cheap, lower owned guy to be overweight to, it would be Kukuchi with a confidence level of like a 0.1 out of 10.
I'm neutral to the field right now on Kukuchi. I'm actually a little light on Keegan Thompson just because I haven't found the need to get the additional salary. Like if Chris Bassett's going to be the most expensive guy at 9,300, I'm probably already okay salary wise. The only guy that I'm getting to like significantly more than the field is even like a weird way to say it. I've got like 15% Jameson Taillon, and we've got him projected for 5% ownership. It's just happening. I can't really like advocate. I don't have a reason why it's happening other than like somebody had to get some ownership. And I think the fact that Logan Gilbert's 11% owned, Cole Irvin's 13% owned, Suarez is 11% owned. I think Taillon's just like the guy that's getting bumped up for me that didn't happen to get to 10% ownership. I think it could have been any one of those guys if they were just a little bit less owned, but for right now, it happens to be Taillon. I don't even love it in my, like, when I look at it, I see a Mariners team that's an above average offense that doesn't have a ton of strikeouts. If it's Adam Frazier and Ty France at the top of the lineup, these guys don't K all that frequently. Like, I don't like it from a strikeout perspective. It just so happens he's 7,700 and it seems to be fitting in my lineups.
Yeah. And I mean, Taillon, there is a little bit of a lack of strikeout upside twofold. He doesn't generate strikeouts. The Mariners don't really swing and miss. But Taillon doesn't suck. 3.96 ERA, 4.05 expected ERA. We have to say one positive about the matchup. Julio Rodriguez is still out for the Mariners, so that does make them a little bit less potent than what their overall numbers would suggest. But yeah, it's not really an ideal spot for him. Just because it's getting brought up in chat, Jose Suarez, I don't think is a terrible option either, just because of the matchup against Oakland. Suarez individually is not a good pitcher, which is also, a little bit concerning. You'd like to try to get behind a pitcher who doesn't suck. He has a 4.55 ERA, 4.65 expected ERA, but also a pitcher with a little bit of strikeout upside relative to his price, over 20% K rate. And he's pitching against the A's. I was really surprised to see how low the total for this game opened up. I haven't seen what it moved to, but earlier in the day it was 7 runs, which for a fairly weak pitching matchup, I know the offenses suck also, but 7 runs is such a low total. But it is definitely an indication that the books were expecting, at least this morning, that there wasn't going to be a lot of runs put up in this game.
Really excited to talk about that piss poor offensive matchup when I'm over the field on both of those teams. Not that I'm excited about that either, but I am getting to the A's and Angels. We'll talk about that in a bit. Not excited. I bet
the over on the game. I bet over 7 runs.
Well, I hope you're right. At the very least, that would be beneficial to me. I'm not confident in that, but it is something that's showing up in my exposure. So we'll deal with that in a little bit.
I think there was a little bit of line movement on that as well. So let's see what it's at now. It is 7.5. So whatever closing line value. I won't argue with that. Not that a half run of value there, and A's and an Angels game means that anything's a lock to bet, but I do feel like there's a little bit of value that I got on it this morning just for that reason. But, that aside, in terms of pitchers, there isn't one cheap one that I really love. Is there anybody we missed here that you think is worth talking about?
I was just about to ask you the same question. I was going to kind of go the other direction and say, like, is there somebody that you think is going over-owned? But I don't think that really exists on today's slate.
I would say maybe Keegan Thompson by a little bit because he's projected for nearly 20% ownership. But at the same time, too, I get it. This Nationals lineup is so shitty. It's such a bad lineup now without Juan Soto and Josh Bell. And actually, not this is a big decrease, but Keegan Thompson has gone down from nearly 20% projected ownership now to 17. So he has gone down just a little hair. And there's strikeout upside in Keegan Thompson. He's very inconsistent, but here are his, actually, this is a really good indicator. These are his last 4 fantasy games. DK scoring 26 fantasy points, -7, 31, and -5. So boomer bust to say the least, but with his price being as cheap as it is, I understand why people would get there.
Yeah, like I don't have much to say on Logan Gilbert or Kohler, and I think they're very clearly just the meat in a Blake Snell, Zach Gallen sandwich. Should they be owned? Yeah, a little bit. Is a 4-to-1 relationship in ownership to those guys correct? In a vacuum, probably not. I just don't see any way around it. Alex Wood's the only guy that's like weird on this slate. It just so happens that he has to face the Padres, and that's a very difficult spot. But like, he's more talented than a $7,600 price tag shows. I don't know if that matters when you're like the 8th best pitching option on the day.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll talk more about this when we get to offenses. I have no interest in Alex Wood for today and probably for the rest of the season, because this is a trend that I've been on for a couple years now when it comes to DFS. So I have zero exposure to Alex Wood, and we could combine these things together with Alex Wood and why I like the Padres as a contrarian stack. But I'm going to bring up Alex Wood's splits for his career. And in the first half of the season, and by the way, this is his entire career. So we're talking about 10 years or something like that. So over the course of his career, first half of the season, 3.18 FIP. Second half of the season, 3.95 FIP. His strikeout rate in the first half of the season, 23.7. Strikeout rate in the second half of the season, 21.4. His average fastball velocity is also about a mile per hour lower in the second half of the season versus the first half of the year. I don't think he's a pitcher that's built for the longevity of a 162-game season. And we just see this every year with Alex Wood. He'll start years fairly well. And this year he's been worse than he's been in some other years as well. And then second half of the year, velocity decreases. He either gets hurt or he just pitches poorly in the second half of the year. So I think this is a pitcher who could very much be had as the season winds down and he starts to really get worn down. And he's going up against a Padres team that's a fairly loaded offense. Their ownership is in check right now because they just haven't hit all that well since acquiring Juan Soto and Josh Bell. Like, this was a crazy chalk team the first couple games that they had these guys, and that just hasn't been the case as of late. So now we're seeing everybody start to get off them. And I kind of think based on the talent in this offense and then just the low ownership and also some of the trends I pointed out with Alex Wood, this is a good contrarian stack for me to want to get to.
We will dive into those stacks shortly. Just want to let everybody know at this moment, 333 likes. You guys are fantastic. I know you'll keep hitting that button since we're over 1,000 people, but that's a really nice number to see. Free content for today. I think that's going to be very important. If you're watching this show, our MLB projections are free for today. I assume that's like the most important thing you guys would want. If you're listening to this, you get a source of projections for free. All you got to do is go to stokastic.com and you will be able to browse directly to our projections for today. That's as good of a free tool as you're going to be able to find. If you're trying to play DFS, having our baseball projections is a decent starting point.
Yeah. And then also, if you guys are looking to sign up for a membership package, you're wondering what else is there? Top pitchers tool, top batters tool. That's new. Top stacks tool. So really valuable stuff in terms of determining what the odds of each individual player are to being the top scoring players on the slate. So all that stuff behind the paywall. And Josh, what promo code could they use to get that for a little bit cheaper?
I'm fairly sure. I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure that if you guys use MLB Live, one big word, no spaces, all caps, you'll get everything that we have. And it's not just for baseball. You'll get every single thing that we have for 50% off your first week of Stokastic Plus. We're talking everything that we just named from the baseball side of it. Football's back. Got a ton of NFL tools behind the paywall. Golf is still around. We're starting the playoffs this week. Great time to test it all out. PGA projections, ownership, top golfers tool. MMA, top fighters tool. Auto racing, I can't tell you what we have, but projections and ownership and I don't know, Formula One stuff. I don't know those car things, man. I have no clue whatsoever. Tons of best ball content behind the scenes as well. But if you're into auto racing, you would know better than I would. But we definitely have projections for NASCAR. We definitely have Xfinity projections. Per Adam, we have trucks projections. We have F1 projections, ownership projections for NASCAR. So it's all here. There's also a top drivers tool, which I'm looking at on my screen right now. You guys should use all of it. You get access to everything, every bit of that using that promo code.
I feel like I should play F1 more just from a standpoint of I've only done it a couple of times and it's gone really well for me. And then I just forget it exists every other time.
I got enough sports out there that I would actually want to watch that I don't play DFS for.
If
No
you've
F1
seen
for me.
it's actually it's pretty good. There's an F1 documentary on Netflix right now, and
I watched
actually
the
is really
first
good.
like 2 episodes, and then I realized I didn't care.
All right, fair enough. You gave it a shot.
Yeah. I tried to dive into it probably like mid-COVID, and I was just like, "Wow,
is it that old?"
Oh yeah, there's like I want to say 3 seasons, 4 seasons, maybe.
Okay, so I only know about it because, well, my dad told me about it, so I watched some of it, and then my sister-in-law is really into Formula One also. But yeah, I didn't realize that there was 4 seasons. I haven't watched it all the way through.
Yes, this season is this most recent season was the 4th season. It's started in either late for the 2018 season.
Got it.
So yeah, it's not my cup of tea. Not my cup of tea. I need that's I got enough going on with EPL right now. Julio
I
G.
know that is in your what is your current sport power ranking?
In terms of what?
Just we've talked about this a little bit in terms of because you and I are kind of on the same page in terms of we don't necessarily love football. But like if you had to pick 3 sports to watch, what would be your ranking order of them?
Okay, MMA and soccer for sure are in this list. I'll ignore like figuring out the order for right now. But those are, I mean, it's got to be MMA. Oh, fuck. I got to pick 3.
Got to pick 3. That's why, because I know 2 of yours, but I didn't know what the third was.
And it's to watch.
It's to watch.
To watch a random event or like the upper echelon of everything. So is it like, you know, a high level UFC pay-per-view? I'm going to say like Liverpool, Man City, but like a top 6 type matchup, Champions League type stuff for soccer. Like the Masters is certainly, or like the US Open is different than watching like the bumfuck Open. But like at the highest level, unquestionably a high-end MMA card. A golf major, and it's got to be the NBA Finals for me.
Yeah, we're actually, so it's not, I can't get, but for me, I just don't have interest in soccer. Like you've tried F1, I've tried soccer. I can't get into it. I didn't grow up watching it. Doesn't do it for me. So basketball playoffs, I like hockey playoffs too. But basketball playoffs, golf, especially, I really enjoy watching with my dad, and then just any MMA. It doesn't even have to be a high level UFC card. Like I love watching. Have you watched any of the Contender series?
Some. I'll be watching this week for sure with Bo Nickel.
Okay, yeah. So
see him thrash someone.
Contender series last week was absurdly good, just because you get these situations where people are literally, it almost makes me feel bad because like these are 2 people fighting who think they have an opportunity to change their life, which in a sense they do, but they probably don't. So they just go balls to the wall. Like last week was absolutely ridiculous. Every fight was a banger. So it doesn't even have to be high level UFC. Just almost any action-packed UFC fight is probably going to have me interested. Like this weekend's card just a few days ago, I thought it was going to suck on paper, and it ruled. Like that was an awesome card to watch. So most UFC cards, it is hard to know which UFC cards are going to be good or bad. Like there's individual fights that you could be like, Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier are fighting each other in a couple months at MSG. Guaranteed banger. But a lot of times it's kind of hard to know which fights are going to be good or suck, but I'll watch any of them.
The only reason that soccer doesn't land in my top 3 is because Liverpool clouds my judgment. Like, I have to, it has to be either with them or without them. If it's with them, that's the one thing that I want to watch more than anything else, any sporting event across the board. If I take them out, I want to do those other things more than I want to watch a Champions League final that doesn't contain them. Even though I would really enjoy that, I'd rather watch the MMA. I'd rather watch a generic NBA playoff series. I'd rather watch the British Open. Oh, sorry, the Open Championship.
To me, that's the worst of all the majors to me, by the way.
That's like that was like my favorite as a kid.
Nah, to me, it's like, oh, look, we've got weird greens and bad weather conditions. Cool. I'd rather see the actual golf course be difficult than just be like, we have weird weather conditions.
The Masters is last for me. I would rather watch both Opens before the Masters.
I agree and disagree because on one hand, I kind of like the familiarity, but that's also what I dislike about it at the same time too, if that follows. Like, I like that it's a course where it's like, oh, I've seen these holes, I'm familiar with them. But at the same time too, I kind of like the idea of like, oh, here's a new course that I'm going to be watching for a few days.
I love seeing it where it's just like, oh, it's the US Open this week and maybe somebody finishes 1 under. Like, I live for those nights or those, like 4-day stretches.
Yeah, as long as the golf course is fair.
Yeah, for sure. I got to hit on Julio G's super chat. He said, is there a faster way to run a crunch to get a mix of stacks than to run separate crunches? If I want 30% 5-3, 30% 5-2. No, there's not.
Yeah, for one, I build all my lineups kind of the same way. Like, I don't force secondary stacks. I don't make a rule where it has to be 3 and then I have lineups that I have to be 2. Like, I just run 5-man stacks and what comes up comes up. For me on DraftKings, that's what I've found success with over all of the years I've played. So I don't really see a reason to really have to differentiate. I know that doesn't directly answer Julio's question because the answer is no, but I would also say I don't think you have to force certain kinds of stacks.
I don't think you do either. If I were doing 4s, then I'm bringing a 3 along as well. But that's just a kind of a different question. I don't generally add. If I do, I'll either do 5-3 or 5 with no other stack. I won't ever set like a 5-2.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
I either want it like fully correlated or I'm not dealing with that extra 3 piece.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I forced myself to make a 5-3 stacks on DraftKings. I do think that gets to be a little prohibitive.
How many more lineups do we need? 2 Angels and Yankees?
Did we get the Giants lineup yet?
We did.
All right. I missed the Giants lineup come through. Not that it matters. I hate this team and all their nonsense with pinch hitting. Yeah, it came through 8 minutes ago.
Red Skittles, you're taking this the wrong way. I'm not saying that I hate Augusta. I'm just saying I would rather watch the US Open and the British Open before Augusta. I still want to watch all of the Masters and I still really enjoy the tournament, but I like the idea of bouncing around to like the rest of the highest level courses in the United States and in Europe for this kind of event. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah. And I'm a total hypocrite because I said my favorite and least favorite thing about the Masters is I like that I have familiarity with the course, but at the same time too, sometimes it gets stale for me. Like, it's kind of like a flavor thing. There's some years where I'm like, and I'm watching the Masters no matter what, either way, but I understand where you're coming from.
For the Masters, it depends who's in contention. Like, at the highest level, if it's, 2, 3, 4 top, 10 type guys that are making their run, then I think the Masters becomes like the highest level of intrigue. But
yeah,
when it's like 2 random boners, then I don't care.
Here's my hottest golf take right now. I think anything involving Tiger Woods ruins a lot of the broadcasts because he's not good anymore. He's not relevant.
Now.
Yeah, now.
Okay. I was gonna say, wow, that is a hot take.
No. Like so because people still go crazy for Tiger Woods, and it's like, do I need to watch him every single shot of him to maybe make the cut, maybe not make the cut, only so that I could watch him be in 50th place all weekend? And then it also just totally absorbs all of the broadcast time. Like, I don't need to see that personally.
Oh, I'm over Tiger for sure. I'm over Tiger.
If he was to become great again, cool, but that doesn't seem like it's in the cards.
Who's your favorite stack today?
So I have not my lineups totally finished just because we don't have all of the lineups yet. But I kind of talked about it before. Relative to ownership, my favorite stack is the Padres, and I'm contemplating them being my single entry stack. For all the reasons I said before, I have massive concerns about Alex Wood when we get into the later portions of seasons. He's not a guy who throws 180, 190 innings because he breaks down. He gets hurt in the second half of the seasons. But before that happens, his velocity dips, his overall production declines. So just to really quickly read off the numbers that I had said like 15 minutes ago in case somebody wasn't in here listening at the time. But Alex Wood in his career in the first half of the season has a 3.18 FIP. Second half of the season, 3.95 FIP. And I'm not talking about this year. This is over the course of his entire career. That's a massive split for any one individual player. And it's also a really big sample size. So I don't think it's a coincidence. His walk rate is higher in the second half of the season. His strikeout rate is lower. I think that it's very clear at this point of his career, he's just a worse pitcher as the season winds down. And I think this is a really good spot to buy low on the Padres.
I like the idea of it. I'm not getting there. Like the upside is obviously an exceptional offense that could just pop off at any time because they're truly loaded, and they just do it to an Alex Wood that you have an angle on that is probably going to get a little bit worse as each start happens throughout the rest of the season. I got about 4% of them right now. They're in 3% of my 5-man stacks. So I'm relatively neutral to the field. But on paper, if I'm going to get to a team in that area, I'd like it to be the Padres just because they're good.
Yeah. And by the way, I have 10% of the Padres. It is probably my biggest stand of the slate. They're only projected for 3% ownership.
Yeah, I got a little bit more than 10% of the garbage A's and garbage Angels for today, both around 4% in the aggregate. That is the spot that I'm getting most over the field for like a team that isn't getting any ownership. And I think it's just a sort of a points to ownership relationship. They're not pulling anything, and those are the spots that I'm getting to. But the Blue Jays are my current most exposed stack. They just look exceptional. I do have the Mets, but I am under the field on the Mets. Second biggest fade. I use fade relatively speaking because the Mets I have more ownership to the Mets than I have every other team except for the Blue Jays, but I am also well under the field to the Mets. The team that I really am fading pretty aggressively would be the Arizona Diamondbacks. How are you handling the ownership on the Diamondbacks, who are third or at least were third in aggregate ownership?
So looking through my exposures, there are a bunch of these players that I'm getting as one-offs because I do think they look like pretty excellent values, a lot of them. But in terms of a stack, I'm underweight to the field by a pretty good margin here. I have about half of the Diamondbacks that the field has. It's a good matchup for them against Tyler Beede, but we've seen this happen a lot with the Diamondbacks in the second half of the season for reasons that kind of escape me. I guess it's just because the team's been cheap, but like, what do I need to save money with for today? Like, what am I doing? The pitchers that we like today are all relatively cheap because all of the pitching is cheap today. The most expensive pitcher on today's DK slate is Chris Bassett at $9,300. On FanDuel, he's $10,400. This is not a prohibitive salary. The cheap pitchers we like today, Blake Snell, Zach Allen, they're also fairly cheap over on DK as far as SP2s go. So I just don't need to save all that much salary at offense. So sure, some of these individual Diamondbacks hitters, like I get to Alec Thomas, Joshua Rojas is showing up in lineups, Ketel Marte, Seth Beer a little bit at first base. But in terms of 5-man stacks, I'm underweight to the field because I just don't think I need the salary savings.
I completely agree. We talked about that on the strategy show earlier today. I was just like, pitching's already not a problem. Like I would rather just take the opportunity to go to more of these, to a Padres stack, like you just mentioned, where, you don't really have to worry about all that much from a salary perspective there. I think that looks a lot better.
Yeah. And the other thing too, is the Diamondbacks who now I feel like we're at a point in the season where 3 out of the 7 days a week, the Diamondbacks are a chalk stack or 2, something around there. They end up being really popular. More often than not, it fails. The reason why it fails is because their offense is not that good. It's a weird team that constantly pops up as being chalk.
Let's see, 6:41. We got about 25 minutes or so to go until we get to lock. 370 likes too. I can't really be mad there. Is there a team other than the Padres that you're looking to be over the field on?
Let me look at the answer is yes. I'm just trying to figure out which team, based on my current exposures, is the one that I'm next most overweight to. All right. So current projected ownership. I'm pretty overweight to the Yankees right now. I have almost 10% of them. They're only projected for 6% ownership. Logan Gilbert's a really talented pitcher. He's a really highly rated prospect. He was really good last year. He has declined a little bit this season, but it's more so from a standpoint of I do think he's going to face regression a little bit in the second half of the season. 3.09 ERA, but 4.28 expected ERA, 3.78 FIP. And we have a Yankees team that has all of the public sentiment against them outside of Aaron Judge. Everybody knows Aaron Judge is excellent, and he has absolutely been destroying despite how bad the Yankees have been lately. But now there's this narrative online, and that a lot of people, it's like, oh, the Yankees peaked at the beginning of the season. They're not good now in the second half. And I get it. It's a pitcher-friendly ballpark. The matchup isn't ideal. We're getting the Yankees on a fairly small slate at lowish ownership. I wish we had the lineup confirmed, because I don't know, is Anthony Rizzo in or not? It's hard to know right now. He's dealing with back spasms. But if we can get the Yankees at modest ownership, that's almost always going to be appealing to me, especially on a small slate.
I mean, that's basically the same sort of talking point for the Padres. Like, if you can get to the Yankees, if you can get to the Padres, you're just putting down a bet on a high-level offense doing what high-level offenses can do. I never have any problem getting to teams like that. I hope that that's what happens when I run my crunches. I just don't go in and like make any manual adjustments or anything. But in the group, like when I look at things, I'm never looking at it like, oh, I really hope I get the A's today. I assume they're going to be shitty like they normally are. It's way more fun to cheer for a team that you think can succeed.
So that's the funny thing too, because just us being really data driven is sometimes I'll look at my laptops like, oh, fuck, this is what I'm playing. And it's not like I'm not going in and like hand editing stuff, because I'm going to trust kind of what the numbers show me. And it's nice when my opinion really lines up with what some of the numbers are. And, you know, every once in a while, there'll be something where I aggressively disagree with some of the data, and then I'll adjust stuff. But by and large part, I'm just kind of playing with some of the numbers indicate I should be playing. And today, just thankfully, it kind of lines up with what my general opinions are on the slate, like being able to fade a pitcher like Alex Wood. That's what a lot of the data indicates I should be doing anyway.
Are there any other fades for you today other than the Diamondbacks?
Let's see. So other teams that I am currently underweight to, and I'm going to refresh the top stacks tool also to see what some of the current ownership is looking like, because sometimes that changes as we get closer to lock. But the Chicago Cubs. So the Cubs are going up against Hannibal Sanchez. I am not high on Sanchez at all, but the Cubs also a team who are projected for about 11% ownership right now, and I have less than half of that. And it's the Cubs are not good, or Hannibal Sanchez isn't good, but neither are the Cubs. And a lot of these spots, what ends up happening where it's a bad pitcher against a bad offense, I find that the field will really heavily gravitate towards one side when it's like, well, both sides suck. Why are we choosing sides here? And if I had to pick a side, I would actually be a little bit higher on Sanchez. He's just not necessary to get to on this slate. But like, I don't think he's any worse than what the Cubs are right now as an offense.
I think he is worse than what the Cubs are as an offense, but I don't think that either one of those two things are any good.
Yeah, no, it's all bad, but the Cubs are just really popular. And Sanchez does have some it's a really small sample size for Hannibal Sanchez, though. He's made 4 starts. He's a 7.65 ERA. He does have a 3.8 expected ERA, and he's been terrible for the last few seasons. Steamer is in project with a 5.09 ERA the rest of the year, which I think is more than reasonable. But I also don't look at a pitcher as a 5 ERA going up against the Cubs and be like, oh, this means the Cubs should absolutely destroy, especially because the wind is blowing in. So it's not the most favorable offensive hitting conditions. So I don't think the Cubs warrant being the 4th most popular offense on the slate.
Yeah, they're a little deceiving. Ortega hitting in the leadoff spot at 2,600 is just sort of pulling default ownership when you face Hannibal Sanchez and you're cheap and in an outfield spot. Your ownership is just sort of going to go up by default. Contreras is getting ownership because he should. He's a catcher hitting. He's a one of the better hitting catchers, and he's hitting second. Ian Happ's ownership, I think, makes some sense at 13%. And then you're getting everybody below 10%. So it is a little skewed at the top. I think just simply leaving Ortega out of a Cub stack probably brings you into a nice 5-man that isn't as owned as it seems. But I do hear what you're saying there. Just in the aggregate, they're probably over-owned. I think you just need to be very cognizant of the way that you put that Cub stack together.
Yeah, and really the biggest thing for me, other than the Cubs being popular, not being all that good, the run total in the game is not all that high, and there's 15-mile-per-hour winds blowing in. So it was a little surprising to me to see just how popular the Cubs are. Like, obviously, a spot against Hannibal Sanchez is decent, but the overall conditions don't indicate that the Cubs should be a very chalk team.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about from a stack perspective?
I mean, so we just talked about how the Cubs are really popular, and I'd said before that I like Kukuchi as a contrarian pitching option. The fact that the Orioles are now the 5th most popular offense on the slate makes me feel even better about Kukuchi being the super low-owned pitcher to take shots on as a contrarian pitcher, maybe in some more popular stacks in large field tournaments. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people in chat say they really like playing the Mets, which I understand why. They're going up against Justin Dunn, and Justin Dunn is basically a quadruple A pitcher at this point in his career. There's a point in time where he was a prospect, but it never really panned out. He's 26 years old. So I think the days of him potentially being a viable starting pitcher in the big leagues, like, those are behind us. It's not ever going to pan out for him. But if you're somebody who really wants to play the Mets, which I think is more than reasonable, I think that that's a spot where you say Kukuchi would make sense as a pitching option, because that's a way to immediately differentiate any Mets stacks.
I like that. Let's talk Odd Shopper quickly, and then we're just sort of going to open it up to random musings and random conversations. If you're into sports betting at all and you have legal sports betting in your state, if you're not using Odd Shopper, you're probably making a gigantic mistake. One, you just have all of the lines at your fingertips, so you can make sure that you are going to get the best line possible when you're putting in that bet. That is a totally selfish endeavor for you. It helps you. It only hurts the books. The only thing that you're doing by not taking the best line is hurting yourself. So just do it. Just use Odd Shopper to find the best line, click that thing, and then you're going to go directly to the bet and make it. That is the easy part. And that's just a no-brainer that you guys should be doing. If you want to take it a little bit further and you want to get into like the player props game, we are providing so much information from a player props perspective for nothing whatsoever. It costs you nothing to use Odd Shopper. $0. You just go there and it's there. Sign up using an email address, obviously, but like it's not taking any money out of your pocket. You get our projections, our expected ROI, our expected win rates. We'll show you the hold. We've got parlay builders, ARB calculators. We got all sorts of good stuff at Odd Shopper, and it costs you nothing. It is a free utility that you guys should just use. Even if you can't legally bet in states, I think it's still beneficial to look at lines, to look at totals, to look at player props, and all of that information will still be there for you to take a look at it. And again, free. Just use Odd Shopper, everybody, please.
And to add on to what you said before, the reason I knew this morning that the A's-Angels game had an over-under of 7 and the line was probably going to move is because there was only one book that was offering it at 7 and every other book had 7.5. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't look at Odd Shopper. I'm not looking at every single book. I mean, I could, but who is the time for that? It's much easier to just look at this one resource, which is free to use, and you just find the best line everywhere else. Like, why would I want to bet an over 7.5 when it's over 7 somewhere else?
Right. And you'll see it at a moment, like immediately. It's going to be highlighted for you. You'll see it right in front of your face that you can get a better line. So there you go. Do you like this slate?
Because the Padres are so low owned, yes. And I do feel like I have a good read on them. Like, to me, that's really where I'm at here, where I ultimately settled on I'm playing the Padres as my single entry stack. I'm 3x the field on them as a stack right now. And that's really what has me liking it. It's going to be annoying if I get to I doubt that the Padres are going to be chalk today. Like, there's nothing that makes me think they would be. But as long as they're low owned, like, I mean, this entire lineup, particularly for single entry, might be like 1-2% owned. So these are really actually my favorite kind of slates. If it's a small slate and there's a contrarian offense I really like, I feel like I'm just making a high upside bet on one team scoring a bunch of runs.
Do you want to take some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
We've got 14 minutes to go. Chat, got almost 1,000 people here, 386 likes. Here's what we'll do. We'll take questions from YouTube chat or Discord. Premium members get to cut the line. We'll take those questions from YouTube chat once we hit 400 likes. That's 14 more. I'm not asking for anything crazy there. It'll just look a lot cooler if it gets to 400.
Yeah,
I think that's reasonable.
I think we should, for everybody who's watching that's in our Discord chat, because I know a lot of the people in Discord chat watch, but it's kind of weird where we get a lot of questions for NBA slates in Discord chat, not as much for baseball. So I would like to encourage you guys, if you're watching in Discord, if you just add us during the shows, we're going to answer those questions. Like, there are no such things as stupid questions unless you're Sean D.
It's really crazy. In our Discord, at the beginning of the show, I said the exact opposite thing. There are stupid questions, most of them, in fact, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't ask them.
No, because if nothing else, it would make for good content at the very least. If somebody was to say, who should be projected for more fantasy points, Hannibal Sanchez or Blake Snell, then that would take up the next 10 minutes of the show.
There we go. All right, let's see what we've got coming in here. Let's see if Discord chat is actually listening to us. Charles Moran, Gallon or Snell, FanDuel GPP one lineup. I mean, it's got to be Snell, but it sort of depends on what the rest of your lineup is.
So I ended up with, let's see. Yeah, I have more exposure to Snell, but I mean, we talked about before when it comes to pitchers. Snell, Bassett, Gallon are pretty clearly the top three. I would say, though, my preferred pitching combination for the slate is Snell and Bassett.
Yeah. For me, if it's on FanDuel, I got to go to Snell before I go to Gallon. He's $200 cheaper, too. The upside for Snell, to me, is just a lot higher. Like, I would actually probably want Bassett, just given where I'm at. And the Snell ownership and the Gallon ownership, both relatively high. It sort of depends on what your stack is. Like, how chalky is your main stack? Or if you're doing a 4-4 on FanDuel, like, are you running out the two highest owned teams? At which point, then I might be trying to get away from all three of those names that I mentioned before. But if you're on FanDuel and your main stacks are, let's see, I'm clicking on our top stack tool now just to make sure that I'm getting this right. Like, if you've got Toronto and, I don't know, Baltimore, then I think any one of those top three are going to be fine because Baltimore's just not pulling as much ownership. But if you're like trying to go Mets, Blue Jays on FanDuel, 2 4-4s, then I'd be trying to get away from all three of those top guys. Yeah, and that's also a really good point. Particularly, I mentioned before about the overall utility of like a Yusei Kukuchi. I don't want Kukuchi being my Padres lineups because that's unnecessary. There's other pitchers I like. The Padres aren't highly owned. I don't need everything in the lineup to be contrarian. I just need something to make these lineups somewhat unique. So where you want to differentiate a pitcher, like Josh said, is are you playing the Mets as your offense? Are you playing the Blue Jays as your offense? Like, those are two really popular teams. If you're going with a lower owned offense, then it's less problematic. Jordan asked a question in Discord whether I crumble toilet paper into a ball when I wipe or fold it up. That would be a crumble into a ball. I'm going to sneeze. All right. So while Josh is sneezing, the answer is he doesn't use toilet paper. Just like he doesn't wash his hands. Yeah. I use my bare hand and I just stick my hand in the shower. Obviously. He walks outside. He finds the nearest tree. He pulls a leaf off it. And there you go. Yeah. But 100% crumble. Yeah. Save the environment. You create a little bit of mulch for the trees to grow on. He's got to figure it out. Crumbling it up is criminal. You're a criminal, Jordan. So here's my. I'm not trying to do origami while I take a shit. So here's the you wrap it around your hand. Like, is that what you do? No, I don't have time for that. Why waste all of that toilet paper? Yeah, but then you layers on another side for no reason. Aren't you nervous about touching something when you're unwrapping your mummified hand?
Wrapped just to like form the shape, and then you take it off the hand, and then you use it.
So here's what you do to your enemies, right? You do that and you punch somebody in the face. And you got your hand wrapped up like you're a boxer, so you don't have to worry about your wrist getting hurt. And you got somebody with your with your knuckle imprint on their forehead.
Jordan's crazy. Just truly crazy. Unbelievable, Jordan. Unbelievable. It's not good. It's just not good. Swanson79 wants to know, do you ever run 5-1-1-1 stacks on DK? It's all I run and been successful. We actually talked about that earlier in the show, but yes.
Yeah.
I mean, not so like intentionally, but 5 blank as the crunch method is just what's happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, I run my lineups on Cruncher to be 5-man stacks. And just the way it works, I'll get 5 2s from time to time. There'll be 5 3s that pop up, but the majority of my lineups do end up being 5-1-1.
Yeah, same. What else we got going on in here? Chat's just broken at this point in time, thanks to Jordan. So kudos for that. Bean Dude nailed it. I don't have time to wrap around. By the time I wipe, my legs are asleep and I'm just hurrying to stand up. Very relatable, although not nearly as relatable now that I don't have a job I hate as it was when I had to go and do the cubicle life where you just go take a shit just to not be at your desk. Those days, your legs go numb.
Yeah, I have bad circulation also. So like if I'm sitting there for 15 minutes, like I've got my feet are starting to swell up. I don't know.
The best.
Yeah, I don't have time for that.
We were asked our thoughts on bidets. Exceptional. Anybody that says no to that is a crazy person.
It's so actually I need to get now that I have my own house, I have to get bidets on the toilets here because something that changed my life was studying abroad in Italy and realizing that bidets are by far the best way to clean your asshole. By far.
Yes. It's not up for debate. It's not, especially if it's a good one and it like warm water and stuff, like you could really have a good time. Jets World wants us to rank Mets batters for importance for cash games. That is a pretty easy thing to do at this point.
We got a super chat also.
Ooh, I'll hit my filler arc in a second. Nimmo, Marte, Lindor, right out of the gate are the top 3. Lindor for sure. Probably make a case for Jeff McNeil. I haven't looked at the rest of the position, but Nimmo and Lindor would be the first 2 that I'm looking at.
All right. So based on my exposures and the field right now, it would be, so there's 3 guys I would actually consider to be like must plays in DK cash games from the Mets. It would be Marte, Nimmo, and Lindor. And then beyond that, there's other guys that you could certainly put in there, like Pete Alonso, Dan Vogelbach. You can't play both of them in the same lineup on DK. Really, the entire Mets lineup outside of Eduardo Escobar and James McCann, I would consider to be cash viable. But the 3 that I would say are really must plays in cash are Marte, Nimmo, and Lindor on DK.
I'm with you. With Marte's salary at 5,400, I can see how there's another option on a different team where you just have a slightly lesser salary. With Nimmo being 4,700 in the leadoff spot, I think he's got to be ahead of Marte, but I think Marte also looks fantastic.
And for first base, I think that Vogelbach and Alonso are the 2 best options, but it's hard to call either of them like must plays a really high priority because you can't play both of them in the same lineup. So I'd say you probably want one of them, but it's whatever fits the rest of your build best.
Sean V says Marte is a fade. Obviously has no idea what cash games are, so that's good. Let's hit my filler arcs question. He said, playing 3 pitchers today, stupid DK has Ohtani as a field player. Is Bassett and Thompson a good combo for the other 2?
Well, Ohtani the hell would today.
Yeah, so Ohtani's a field player because he's not a pitcher. So
it's one of the only times that DK and FanDuel has it right and it's sensible.
Yeah, you should be really happy that he's not listed as a pitcher because you would get 0 points. Thompson's fine. He's not my cup of tea. I understand why he's getting the ownership. I'm avoiding him more in 150 max because of his ownership, but not because he is the highest projected guy I have below Jameson Taillon.
Yeah, so the reason he brings it up is because FanDuel has Ohtani listed as a pitcher for today. So FanDuel's really fucked it up. So we should be happy with what DK is doing. But yeah, if you go play on FanDuel, Shohei Ohtani listed as a pitcher tonight and will not have hitting stats count towards his score. So you're playing Ohtani, the hitter, as a pitcher. He's hitting today. He's not pitching, and only his pitching stats count. So they've really screwed this up.
Yeah, EJ Carter, he is not pitching today. He pitches tomorrow.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Let's see if I can...
What was the second part of his question, by the way? Because I kind of...
Is Thompson okay as a third pitcher?
Yeah, relative to the field's ownership, I don't like him, but it doesn't mean he isn't playable.
Right. I have a crunch in right now, but I've got 3 minutes to go, and I just had to reopen Cruncher, so we'll see. Yes, pitcher Ohtani is a good way to be contrarian today.
Yeah.
That I can completely agree with.
I'm telling you, next year they're going to have it figured out. That's going to be the big hook to MLB DFS next year. So you can roster Ohtani as a pitcher and a hitter on the same day.
What a heroic effort that would be.
After 5 years, it's probably time to figure it out. Oh, Yankees lineup's in. Let's see. Is Rizzo is not in the Yankees lineup, so I have to redo all this now.
I'll deal with that in a bit. Right now, I am exporting my crunch, refreshing, and hoping that I do everything in the next 2 minutes. We'll see where we end up. There's the refresh. So far, so good. 2 minutes to go. Sort this back. I shouldn't have clicked sort yet. That was a mistake, but we'll be okay. We'll go 73, 73. That'll work. Ooh, I'm even lower on Blake Snell now because Logan Gilbert's ownership has gone down. Blue Jays, Mets, Cubs, Angels, A's still happening for me. All right, so that's 152 lineups. 90 seconds, folks. If you don't have your junk in yet, you're probably me.
Well, I have to redo mine now because you always have to make these decisions.
Yeah.
I mean, easier with baseball and a sport like basketball, but I was assuming Rizzo was going to be playing today, and obviously not the case. So I was overweight to the Yankees, and Rizzo was in a bunch of those stacks.
All right. Lineups are saved. Not a lot of time to go. 50 seconds. Upload. Done. Lineups are in. Lineups are in.
All right. Now here come mine in a second.
Most exposed team for me is the Blue Jays. I'm holding hands with the field on that one. I have them in basically every combination possible. A little bit lighter than the field on the Mets. A little bit over the field on the Cubs. Biggest stand I have is the Angels. In terms of being over the field. I'm also over the field now on the Giants, oddly enough. Biggest fade very, very easily. That would be the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yep. So we are on the same page in terms of being underweight to Arizona. We just got the Angels lineup. We just got the Yankees lineup. Would have been really cool if these lineups came out 5 minutes earlier, but well, what can you do?
Yeah, I'll deal with it when we get off of here. I don't have a ton of Yankees, and I do have a lot of Angels, so that will be an interesting swapping point, but that's nothing that I got to do now because we are locked. We are locked. So that's all I got. You got anything else?
No, this was a good one. Everybody let's final result of the polls.
It was like 54-46. Adam.
All right. So Josh, you're pulling your weight, but you know Adam. That's what we've really figured out here.
Ouch. One of us won the MMA slate this week.
I won did you come in first in the MMA slate?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So I won I didn't do well on the main slate, but I did come in first in the showdown slate.
Nice. Adam, unfortunately, didn't do that.
I guess he's washed at MMA DFS now. He peaked last week and now it's all downhill.
Must be. Second place in DraftKings MMA championship.
If he was sharper and didn't dupe, then that would be one thing, but not the case, unfortunately. He's just a fish.
Yeah, teams that lose in penalty kicks in a final don't think they actually won. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been great. Another live before lock in the books. Good luck to everything that you're doing tonight. We're back again tomorrow, doing it all again. So thanks, Odd Shopper. Peace.